The big board is now 98% filled, and that means that this is going to be our last streamed draft here. Maybe not the last one pre-NFL draft, but definitely the last one in the big flagship tournament. Of course, on Underdog, 200K to first place. So this is my last shot to build my ideal pre-NFL draft dream squad. We're going to try to do that today. Of course, I am already in the draft room here. This is draft number 59 for me on stream this year. I don't know why the screen is all weird. Let's get this resized and something more pro. Oh my God, it's going all crazy. For the last draft of the year, you're going to do this to me? Come on. No, that's stupid there. Okay, no, that's too big. This is insanity. All right, there we go. There we go. We're going to get this right, guys. Have no fear. Thank God I'm not picking for a very long time, so I can really sort this out. All right. There we go. That's good. That'll do. All right, in the 12 hole here, which, blech, but the good news is we can really freelance picking at the end of the round, of course, where I've taken in the past, taken Marvin Harrison, taken Malik Neighbors at the 1-2 turn here. I don't know that I'm going to do that today, but it's an option. It's an option for sure. It is really the last day. It's possible the draft itself goes into tomorrow morning. I think, filling about 1%-ish a day, it looks like. So right now, maybe closes today at 99.5%. You see a few people doing your early Saturday morning drafts, but functionally, yes, the big board going to be filled now in this tournament for what it's worth, just because people sometimes care about these things. There are how many spots? There are currently 218,801 people in it and 223,000 spots. So I would think it would be hard to fill 5K over the course of today, but definitely by, I would say, middle of the day tomorrow. Big board probably donezo. We got Wakey, Bakey from Colorado. That is living up to the brand. We got Mr. Poopy Butthole in here. Probably not the actual Mr. Poopy Butthole, who, and last we saw him on Rick and Morty lore, killed another alternate dimension version of himself. I believe was where, a spoiler alert for all the Rick and Morty fans out there. We got a lot of time to kill here before our picks, so might as well catch you guys up on that. Beautiful day to take 0 RBs, perhaps. Maybe I'll take multiple RBs here. I did see that our pal Pete Overzet on his Baza Kingdom channel has a video where he is taking 4 running backs early and seeing if he can salvage it. I've not watched the video yet, and I'm sure it's possible for a drafter like Pete to do that. But 4 early running backs, that can be a real inhibitor in this 2024 draft landscape where wide receivers fly hot and heavy, erotic. All the adjectives that go appropriate here. This guy, Kamagpie, was in our draft yesterday. Don't think he did anything too annoying. Maybe the 2 elite tight ends, if he's that guy. But he's in the room once again. Not sure if he's watching the shows or if he just happens to be drafting at 10:50 a.m. multiple days in a row. Larry Bird. Wow, Larry Bird and Mr. Poopy Butthole. 2 names you don't see often together, but the greatest rivalry since Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, many are saying. 2 draft finale, possibly. I didn't do a probably video this morning because I just couldn't get going this morning, really, is how it went. All right, so we have a 0-0-0-0 here. We have not made a pick yet. We have Jahmyr Gibbs here. We have Kyron Williams, who I do like. Some risk that the Rams backfield gets upset. Well, look, we know one of these picks I take is going to be Marvin Harrison. So let's get that out of the way now while I think through this. Do I want to do Kyron? I don't have a lot of Gibbs, but I am kind of a Gibbs fader. Think that Montgomery still being involved enough is not a good thing. Kyron, I like enough. Drake London, I am low on. I would like the optionality of Drake London, I think. And also, we're bleeding out wide receiver a little bit, which is nice. Somebody else can get the little discount on Jahmyr Gibbs. It won't be us. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, come on down. The 1-2 turn for me. Callie Wild checking in. There are numerous players we are high on this day. Oh, there we go. I'm glad everybody's getting their smokes in on a Friday. I don't like to talk about if I do or don't, because I feel like people would then, we get all these normies in. People yesterday couldn't handle the conversation we're making jokes about things that I'm not going to bring up again today. If you want to go and see what we joked about yesterday, you can watch that video. But, I feel like if you go on a stream, people are like, oh, this guy's high. He doesn't know how he's drafted. You're like, what the fuck, man? If you're having a beer on a stream, if you're sloshing your fucking slurring your words, whatever, I would still take your opinions credibly. Though I do think, that poker book that I've talked about a few times, A Game Poker, they do talk pretty aggressively about, not drinking when you're playing poker. If you are trying to be a top level poker player, not, probably not smoking weed too, but it's all on a spectrum for sure of enjoyment. Travioli about to do draft 150. Oh, there you go. Got to max it though. Good for you. Some people can't hang. 59 wussy. I'm doing draft streams, guys. I can't burn myself out fully by trying to do 150. It's also a bankroll thing for me because I am funding a startup in case you guys have missed the memo here. So if you want to click that old join button down below, it does help out a lot. But yeah, in general, that's sort of my thing. It's like I don't think my advantage is huge enough to really force maxing out 150 in the big board. Though with some of the data that came out, I forget the guy who tweeted it out, but I did see a bunch of people retweeting. 150 maxers in BBM did have a higher advance rate overall than the expected advance rate for everybody. And then even on a more granular level, if you had one level, your advance rate was like 14.8%. You're expected to be about 16.3. And then the 150 maxers, I think, were a little bit over 18%. So there is probably an advantage of 150 maxing, but it's, for me doing streams every day and making this my content focus, I got to prevent burnout, like first and foremost. That's goal number one. We have a holiday tomorrow, Spags will be celebrating. I'm hoping the wife will partake. She just has been doing not even THC, whatever the other legal version of THC that you can get online that's not spice or the weird ones. She's been doing edibles of that. So like to me, that's not as fun as a THC one. But we might do something. I don't know. Depends on her whims. But for me, I'll certainly be partaking. I smoke weed every day. Like I'm not going to smoke less weed or more weed tomorrow, probably. Most likely. I don't know what the probability is on that. Maybe slightly more than usual. Not CBD. There's like another THCA. It's like a thing you get THC from hemp, basically, and that's legal because it's hemp, and also the amount is like micro enough that it's fine. But basically, supposed to be roughly the same as like your dispensary edibles. But I don't know. I haven't taken one yet. I can't attest. Devon Achane goes to 22. Still think it's a nice pick for him. You can make the case that Achane, with how I do view Mostert, Achane can come down around. I don't think that'd be the craziest thing in the world, but for these guys here, I don't know. Yeah, there's kind of a tier break in terms of at least the expected volume. Achane, you're making a bet on his volume coming up, the efficiency staying there, and he was great last year, so those are reasonable bets to make. For Achane, I think there is a little bit of a tier break, though, in terms of how people would view it, where everybody else here that you get going these except Jahmyr Gibbs, but everybody's got really good workloads, solidified roles, expectation of goal line work, expectation of red zone work. So I think these guys make a little more sense than Achane, who I think the good case for him is probably 15, 18 touches. More likely case is going to be still 12 to 15 a game, which would be okay. Definitely can have your 2 touchdowns and all that. Check the Probably app for odds. Yeah, I don't know if we have odds on how much weed I'm going to smoke on there yet. I don't think the market has set data on that, unfortunately. I wish that there were markets on me. Could you imagine if you had betting markets on you and you had to be harassed like NBA players or NFL players do about their props? It's like, fucking spurious news only shat 4 times today, and I had the over on 5.5. Oh, yeah, when he was driving home from work, depressed about having to live another day and go home to his wife. Not spurious news specifically for this one. He was only going 61.5 miles per hour, and I had the under, so would really throw you for a curveball. Maybe that's the future. Maybe that's the product I should be making. Probably, we're doing okay. We're selling some memberships, but lines for people, for fucking regular ass people that you watch all day via spy cam. Somebody would do that. About a Jonte Porter this 420 anyway. Jonte, man, poor Jonte. I guess not poor Jonte. We all reap what we sow, especially if you are a professional NBA player, betting on things and giving out information to people that are known bettors. But he really got the hammer, the Thor hammer on his head just for this entire thing. And I think Charles Barkley is right, a 5-year ban because he's basically the scapegoat for everything. But he did breach it pretty badly. Like the bad news for Jonte Porter, I don't see how he gets into the Hall of Fame now. I mean, all the records he set, and you bet a couple times, and all of a sudden, you're not getting in the Hall of Fame. Hate to see it. Google, Facebook, and Apple probably already doing that on some level. Maybe. I mean, it's possible. I don't think they're doing any betting things for it, but you certainly have enough data at your fingertips. Big data is interesting. There's some of those apps out there. Like I use my Apple Watch and I use my health app. It's interesting to see like your macro trends over the course of time, even your micro trends in a week. Part of why I started getting my steps up, trying to walk like two miles a day at least, is just, besides whatever walking I'm doing amidst our 3-story house and all that, which sounds a lot bigger. It's just 3 flights. But yeah, basically like You gotta, be aware of those things in the macro, but also you have things that can track it. And I think it's fun to look at those data points. I'd be curious. I'd be curious to wager on your guys' steps and your calories burned and whatever minutia. Probably not a lot of money. We're probably talking micro betting. All right, picks coming up here. Back at the turn. All right, so Derrick Henry here, who I don't have a lot of, but it's not like a stand for me that I'm going to my way for. Things that I do feel stand-y for. Cooper Kupp, I think he's come up enough in ADP that I don't need to die on that hill. Odunze, I like enough. I think Tank Dell is going to be one of these picks, though. Tank Dell will be my first of these two because I like Houston a lot. I think Houston's going to be an outlier team this year. And out of all these other guys on the board, I think I still have the biggest feelings for Chicago. I think just them taking an instant leap forward with Caleb Williams is a bet that I like a lot. So we have Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen. So a balance here of age and youth, I think, is a positive thing. I was expecting MHJ to come out and be lights out the moment he hits the field. Besides that, though, Tank Dell just has to be a good wide receiver 3 with some spike weeks. That's fine. I think less pressure on him as well when you have Drake London, when you have Keenan Allen, when you have Marvin Harrison Jr. And for Drake London, I feel like I didn't talk enough about him. I am a buyer on Atlanta being this year's Detroit, a chalky team, a team that everybody's expecting to be on the come up, and they probably are going to be on the come up. The risk point for them is just Kirk Cousins' health, being able to, for him to come back from the Achilles injury, be full go at over 35. Those are some things that are not great. But besides that, I think Atlanta going to be on the upswing. Great coaching brought in. Obviously, the talent they have there, all the things they've said so far about feeding their key guys, feeding Kyle Pitts, using him more, feeding Bijan Robinson, using him more, feeding Drake London. Yeah, I think it's all good. So that's my Atlanta stand here. While we're doing the finale video, I think I have to really dig my heels in on stands. And for Marvin Harrison Jr., if I need to give that stand too, just one of the best receiver prospects I've ever seen, certainly. And I've only been really grading these guys using advanced analytics from SIS over the last 3 years. So that's, my vantage point. Did look back at some things historically, the research in particular for Anthony Richardson last year, some articles I wrote at Football Outsiders. Besides that, though, I would say that for Marvin Harrison, the thing that jumps out is the ability to earn targets, the body control, the visual stuff is there. The analytic stuff is there. I think you can make a case, as I have made before. I think Malik Neighbors may be a slightly more appealing analytic receiver, 0.65 EPA per target compared to 0.43 for Marvin Harrison. So more points being added every time that Neighbors touches the ball, which makes sense. Neighbors a 32% avoided tackle rate, Harrison a 9% avoided tackle rate. They're just different players. Like I think Harrison, the 35% target route run rate, that's the best in the class besides Johnny Wilson, Malachi Corley. So that's where you're looking for Harrison, is that he gets open, he earns targets, great route runner, going to be a good red zone target as well. Last year at Ohio State, he had 1.8 red zone targets a game, a 0.74 EPA, which is best in the class besides Brian Thomas. So he's going to put up touchdowns. He's going to score points. He's going to earn targets. That's my last defense of Marvin Harrison Jr. More than a name brand for sure. Some rumors linking Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Colts now, which seems crazy that they might want to try to trade up to 4. I don't know how the Colts are going to pull off these various trades. I feel like they have to really empty the draft capital chest in a way that I don't think they should for their team right now with where they are. But if they get Harrison Jr., A, that would sell an ungodly amount of jerseys. B, that would crush Michael Pittman Jr.'s value. And Alec Pierce would just be completely dead. And Josh Downs, too. All you guys like Josh Downs, there's a lot of you. Harrison would hurt that a lot. But Colts seemingly linked to a lot of offensive stuff after the early assumption was that they'd take somebody if it fell to them. And if not, they would go cornerback. Now it does seem like they are looking for skill position guys, or at least putting out there that they want skill position guys. A lot of piss boys in the room. Yeah, definitely a lot of piss boys in the room. These guys here all going wide receiver heavy. Makes it a little bit tougher for me to pick up the best values at wide receiver, but it's okay. Team's looking nice so far. Do you think Keenan Allen's getting old and injury prone? I mean, the injury last year was really him not wanting to play down the home stretch. He could have come back in if the games mattered. He didn't want to. I think he also knew the tea leaves there of him likely not being on the team. So for him, he is older for sure, but I believe a lot in Caleb Williams being the main part. I'm not somebody that's going to bet against risk and injury risk. Keenan Allen was as efficient as he ever has been in his career last year. He had a 0.32 EPA per target, which I think would be one of the high marks of his career, 31% target route run rate, obviously a different offense, but still QB, I think going to be similarly playing, I would say playing more loose, if anything, is what Caleb Williams is going to get in year one. 1.2 deep targets a game as well, acquitted himself decently there with a 0.35 EPA. He actually expanded his route tree a little bit more last year, and I thought looked better. So yeah, the age, not great, but again, we have a young team besides him. So I'm not going to, I believe in the offense. Believing in the offense is the more important thing. Bowers to the Colts seems like a good fit. I suppose I just don't know that he would reach his true apex if he's got AR as the QB, and there's going to be inherently just less pass volume. And AR's flaw is still, that intermediate, that short game area. He can get it downfield. Bowers can certainly get downfield too, but I don't know that that's the best usage for Bowers. I would say the best usage for Bowers, I mean, I still think going to Carolina where you could be like the key part of that offense for a QB that needs checkdowns real bad. I think that's still probably like a best landing spot for him. I think the Jets isn't bad. It's going to be a little too many mouths to feed in that one. If you have Garrett Wilson, especially with they're being taken, where Breece Hall's being taken, like there's kind of an assumption there that a lot of targets have to go those guys' ways. But I would still say it's a pretty good outcome for him, at least for as long as Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. I don't like the Titans, though. I do think the Titans, he would certainly open up a lot of area for himself with Ridley and Hopkins out there. So I think that'd be okay for Bowers. Bengals would still look pretty good, but you do, Chase and Higgins there competing for targets is not great. Chargers would be interesting, I think. They're really nothing. He's got to beat out Will Dissly for a job. I think that would be pretty easy to do. There's a lot of outcomes for him. I don't know that there's one that I think is the best necessarily. I don't think the Colts is the best, though. Love that the big board stayed open for one last ride here. Loving the team. Thank you. Yeah, definitely appreciative of all the people on Underdog. I really think it is because all the 150 maxers got their stuff in, and now it's just normal people drafting for the most part, or people drafting at a more leisurely clip. And as a result, the rooms aren't filling quite as much. So it's been taking 10 minutes for a room to fill every day on stream lately. So watch an interview with Isaiah Williams. Dude, remind me of Tank Dell. What are your thoughts? I have not seen Isaiah Williams' name come up at all. He is not. Let me see if I have any data for him. But I've made my point before about these guys where if you are trying to force yourself on guys that are at best going to be a wide receiver 10 in this class, maybe more likely a wide receiver 15. There's just so many guys that I would rather focus on. Williams last year, 0.09 EPA per target's not that great. Earned targets at a good clip, 34%. Mostly out of the slot, though, which we do devalue slot guys because there's tons of them you could find at every part of a draft or in free agency. Downfield, 0.7 EPA, 1.7 deep targets a game. It's okay. In a class where there's so many outliers, it wouldn't be for me. But if you have a feel about a guy, take him around 20. He's in the player pool. A very bad RAS too. Okay, there we go. At this point, if a guy's not on my radar, I just kind of think they shouldn't be. All right, so we have a 0-0-4-0. 2 picks here. I mean, oh, fuck, this is tough for me. I think Kyle Pitts has to be one of them because we have this bet on Atlanta that I have not double stacked very often. I do want to make that bet once here. So Kyle Pitts is going to be 1 pick. I'm really torn between Terry McLaurin and Brian Thomas Jr. I like Brian Thomas a lot. McLaurin would set me up more for the Jaden Daniels stack. What do I prioritize? What do I want more? I want Jaden Daniels, I think, today. He's on the thumbnail. I am in the bag. Jaden Daniels, my biggest stand in this tournament. And of course, I will show my exposures too at the end of this video, or I guess if we do a second draft, at the end of that draft. But we have to take Terry McLaurin here. Why I'm in the bag for Terry McLaurin? Jaden Daniels is great. If he goes to Washington, he's going to materially change everything for that team. I think he is so undervalued right now. There's been some pushback against him, I feel like, from people that, I don't know. I just want a more traditional QB, want a bigger QB, want a guy who isn't going to take the big hits. I'm willing to embrace that stuff. In an NFL where a Tank Dell to me is a guy that would have been too small in many previous years. Now with the NFL's rules changing, with some protections, just more protection in general for players. Hip drops now gone. There's hopefully going to be less ways these guys get hurt. And also, I'm always going to assume positive outcomes for health and injury status and all of that. So when you pair that together with the fact that Jaden Daniels, some numbers for him, because we are making the case for everybody once more here in the home stretch, 0.44 EPA per target is absolutely insane. 11.7 yards per attempt, also insane. Air yards, only 9.5 intended air yards per attempt. So we did get some help from his pass catchers. As we talked about, Malik Neighbors great after the catch. Brian Thomas also wide open, runs after the catch pretty well in open fields. Those things do pad the stats a little bit, but an 85% catchable ball rate, a 74% on target rate, better than everybody in this class besides Bo Nix. So for Jaden Daniels, you're getting all that. Not only are you getting all that, though, you're also getting a guy who ran 9.4 times a game, good for 10.9 yards per rush and a 0.7 EPA per run play. So for Jaden Daniels, I think you're getting the best of CJ Stroud, you're getting the best of Anthony Richardson, and you're getting it, with a Washington team that's got weapons there. So I like that play a lot, and that's what hopefully we'll be able to accomplish today. Just don't snipe me. This is the last draft. I want my tasty Jaden Daniels, though. You guys know I'm probably going to go up and get him because at this point, we're locked in, and he's on the thumbnail. I can't betray. Whenever I actually want a guy who's on the thumbnail, I want to make sure that lines up if we can. Cowing is who I'm hoping is this year's tank. Cowing to me never stood out with anything, and I know people are in the bag for him. I guess maybe the size being similar. I think if I were going to make a bet on a guy late being that guy, I mean, it's probably still Brendan Rice for me. They're not the same kind of receiver. Brendan Rice is my late bet. I think that he really showed 0.75 EPA per target last year is crazy. Though we did have a little bit less volume, only 20 routes per game, 5.9 targets per game. But enough for me to think that he can go somewhere and really start to improve and grow, especially if he's getting good QB play. But I would say besides that, I think Jalen McMillan would be my pick to be a Puka / tank type. I think he's just going to get a good outcome in terms of team. Pearsall, maybe. Pearsall's not a great target earner. It's got to be somebody who's a good target earner. So that would be, yeah, I think it's Brendan Rice is really the late one, but I'm in the bag for big Brendan Rice. And I will continue to be so until we find out in the NFL draft that he's going to the Niners, who are not going to trade Brandon Ayuk and signing him to an extension. That would be probably bad for Brendan Rice. The Bayou Batty, Jaden Dan. I don't know that. I feel like Batty is kind of a feminine noun, so I don't know that we want to call him that, but sure. Where is he actually from? Where's Jaden Daniels born? Because I know he went to ASU initially. He is San Bernardino, California. Okay. So he's not really a Bayou Batty. He's a California cuck. I don't know. Somebody think of a better nickname for me, please. But that'd be it. Rice to the Bengals wouldn't be a perfect fit because he doesn't operate a ton out of the slot. I guess it was a pretty even split. He had 3.4 targets a game out of the... No, wait, no, that's Roman Wilson. He was mostly out wide. 5.1 targets a game out of his 5.9 were out wide. So he would need to go to the Bengals if they got rid of T. Higgins. I think where he would be best would be Buffalo gets blocked out on everybody, and then he goes there. Brock Bowers goes at 78. Obviously, no shot to get him at 84. So that's a tough one. Brock Bowers is not a consideration for me at 61. He is also one of my biggest stands on the year, and I'm happy to get him anywhere. But we're a Kyle Pitts household today. Maybe, I was going to say maybe always were, but we're definitely not always were. Childhood nickname was Smooth for Jaden Daniels. Okay. I mean, he is smooth. I'll tell you that. I feel like if he were a basketball player, he would be called Baby Jalen Hurts a lot by people. Because I feel like that was, I don't know if that's the thing quite as much now. No, it still is. They call people baby, like Baby Jordan, Baby Kobe, Baby whatever. Hillbilly Kobe if you're Austin Reeves. I think Jaden Daniels would have been like Baby Jalen Hurts. Baby Mike Vick, honestly, with his arm. Hopefully less dog-related activities. Somebody goes up and gets Xavier Worthy. Well, Mitchell and Worthy at 80 and 82. I don't know about that. I guess if you're going to do it before the draft. Both guys have a shot to really spring up an ADP post-draft, but who knows? Who knows? All right. We don't pick again until 108. Fuck. Fuck. I think Connor... Next, you know what? Mostert I do value a little bit more. I'm going to go Mostert for one pick. And then we have the bet on Chicago, so I am going to go DeAndre Swift one more time. I like James Conner. I'm low on James Conner. I think Arizona's going to be better. I think Connor's not going to lose his role, really, even if they bring in somebody decent. But I still prefer Swift for a build where I have Keenan Allen. So we're going to take Mostert, who I still think is undervalued. Should be going in the 70s. Let me give the team a read here. We have no QB left, which is a little bit of a risk, but I'm not going to dwell on that yet. A 0-2-5-1 here. Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift at running back. A wide receiver, we have Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, and Terry McLaurin. And a tight end, we have Kyle Pitts. So We have a couple outs at QB. We have some correlation at running back, and a guy I just think is undervalued in Mostert. So that's the build so far. Imagine Mike Vick's side hustle. No, we don't have sports betting dog odds. you can't use the platform for that. Thank you. I am smooth, not hairless though. Not hairless and smooth, unfortunately. Go get your guys. Apparently, yeah. People going up to get AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. I get it. Like they're probably coming up with draft capital. Just they don't excite me very much. There was some. What was the fucking exact stat? It was like guys who have under X amount of yards per route run historically have had a higher flame out rate in the NFL. And Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, and Keon Coleman were all on the list of rookies who have, I think it's under a 2 yard per route run. Do I have that number in front of me? Might be under like 2.5 or something. But AD Mitchell, 2.2. Worthy, 2.4. Keon Coleman, 2 flat. For comparison's sake, Marvin Harrison Jr., 3.6 yard per route run. Odunze, 3.4. Neighbors, 3.9. Malik Washington, 3.5. Malachi Corley, 3. Troy Franklin, 3.7. Xavier Leggett, 3.5. So a bad reflection on a few guys that I'm low on, but I think the athletic testing, you have to be there a little bit. But I definitely am exposure-wise low on Mitchell, Worthy, and those guys. And obviously, maybe wish casting a little bit for things that I don't want to happen as a result. All right, let me look at my exposures quickly for Mitchell. Yeah, Mitchell, I have 3% of Mitchell, so I'm not there at all. And 3% of Worthy. So I've made my stand. I'm a Leggett boy. I am at 21% Leggett. Where to land on Ladd? 9.7% Ladd McConkey. Pearsall. 6.5% Pearsall. Brendan Rice. 19% Brendan Rice late. Was that 8? No, yards per route run. Yards per route run. So the stat was that basically guys under a 2.5 yards per route run have a much higher probability of busting. But busting as a player. So that's the stat. Yes. But he's really fast. So I don't know. I mean, Mitchell is fast and big enough. Some flaws I see overall for these guys, since we are kind of looking at everything again. Xavier Worthy, 0.12 EPA per target is not that great. Mitchell, 23% target route run, not that great. 0.3 EPA per target is okay, but he's getting so many deep targets. And on deep targets, he actually was not that great. 1.6 deep targets a game, good for a 0.6 EPA. For comparison's sake, Malik Neighbors, 1.6 EPA per target downfield. Harrison rounded up 1.6. So basically, to kind of put that in perspective, Harrison and Neighbors, when you target them downfield, they're creating about 1 point more value. Though I guess I should also say Odunze is at 0.66. So Mitchell and Odunze downfield, not dissimilar. Odunze crushed 10 to 20 air yards, though. 0.76 EPA on 10 to 20 air yards for him. Got a lot of prayer yards, did Odunze. But the hope is the athletic stuff and him being good in the mid-range. That's what I'm selling myself on, if nothing else. Pearsall over Worthy. It's just hard for me because, again, I think the performance was not there for Worthy or Mitchell as much as I would like to see. But when you have the elite athletic profile, it's going to make your draft capital come up. So I still think those guys are worth taking, but I still prioritize, as you can see from my exposures, I still prioritize the guys that have produced, should step in and produce more. Smash the like button or else, buddy. Yes, please smash that like button. Of course, new drafts Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. And we're still going to try to get some drafts out. If the little board is go next week, I'll put up a few post-mortem kind of drafts. But the big board is closing today. So we'll definitely be hitting the grind pretty hard once we get to BBM. But please do subscribe, hit that like button. Leave a comment as well. All those things help out quite a bit here. It all helps the YouTube algorithm know that this stream matters to the overall ecosystem. And that's what helps us keep the lights on here. It helps me keep growing this channel so I can do more with it. I'd love to get more streams on here, be able to actually pay somebody to do shows with me. That would be the hope one day. But we got to get a lot more going before we can do that. Curtis Samuel in his new cozy spot at 103. How fast does he drop after the draft when Brian Thomas goes there? When Troy Franklin goes to Buffalo, hopefully. How fast does he drop? I think Curtis Samuel should drop right away to the 120s. And whoever that receiver that goes to Buffalo is, 50s. If it's like a guy that's a pedigree guy or a guy that people can make the case for, Franklin, I think, is right now a little bit lower draft capital, but you can make the case for him because he crushed at Oregon. But I think if Brian Thomas goes there, Brian Thomas is probably up. Got to be ahead of Jaden Reed. I think he goes ahead of Pickens. People love the Bills. People are going to want to stack him with Josh Allen. I would guess that Brian Thomas at least ends up here, if not here. Mid 40s to mid 50s would be my guess. And that honestly could be light. 0251 here. I have an idea of what I would like to do. A little discount on Zamir White for some reason. Would not hate that pick, but I really don't need another receiver right now because I've got 5. I feel good about my 5. We need QB more. I'm making my Chicago bet with Caleb. I am also making my big leap upwards for Jaden Daniels. We're going 2 rookie QBs here. These are both my guys. I am perfectly okay taking any of the top 5 rookies, as we talked about. Honestly, even Bo Nix in certain builds, so I did not get there very often. I'm okay taking, as we talked about, Caleb Williams, Chicago, Jaden Daniels to Washington, Drake May to New England. It's still a shot that McCarthy could go there. That seems like your 3 that you can lock in. McCarthy, tough to stack him up. I've taken him with Minnesota. I would take him with Denver stuff. I would take him with some New England stuff if you don't get Drake May. I think he's still live to go there, but those guys all okay. And then, and Bo Nix is okay. Penix, But yeah, Caleb and Jaden, I think, are 2 of my biggest stands. Just in terms of my belief that they're going to come on and immediately be guys that produce at a very high level. And frankly, I think immediately outproduce Jared Goff, outproduce Justin Herbert, outproduce Trevor Lawrence. Cousins maybe can have a really good year, though, coming off the injury. We'll see. Let's give the team a read, though. We got Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. So Chicago, Washington here is what we're trying to set up. Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, those guys correlate, or I guess Mostert doesn't, but Swift does. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, and Kyle Pitts. We can still take Kirk Cousins as QB3 with the bet that we have in London and Pitts. We also can make a bet right now that just Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels beat Kirk Cousins in Week 17, even if the stack goes off. I'm comfortable with both sides of that bet, so we'll see what happens. Thought you're going to wait for Kirk to go Jaden Zamir there. Nope. No, I'm not huge on Zamir. Zamir is like an okay player. It was not great in the analytics that I swear by. And also, I think there's a good shot that the Raiders bring in somebody that's better than Zamir and also better than Alex Madison right away. Madison, I do think, is not a threat, though it is still an ambiguous backfield with a new offensive coordinator coming in. So I think that Zamir White earned some trust last year, but I don't think it's a sure thing he's a starter either. So we're talking about a guy that last year, Zamir White, negative 0.1 EPA per rush, only a 13.5% avoided tackle rate, so not great there. Did get 1.2 red zone rushes games, so they trust him in the red zone, and that's a positive for sure. But he wasn't great, and also, it's a new coaching staff. Theoretically, Madison could win that job, so that's part of why for me with Zamir. I'll take him here and there, but he's not like a priority guy. I'd rather have Caleb and Jaden, especially if this is going to be my last big board draft or one of my last. A brick could outperform Jared Goff in fantasy. That's true. Jared Goff did carry people in, week 15 last year? One of the weeks he did. That was actually, a lot of guys that you would think would not be the spike week guys because they don't run a lot, but it was Jared Goff and Derek Carr had some of the biggest playoff weeks, and Jordan Love runs a little bit, but he ended up being the BBM winner for our guy Fareed. Fareed doing a stream, by the way, with Pete on the Best Ball After Dark. So if you are somebody, actually, if you missed the stream with me and Pete last week, you can pay for a membership to Pete's channel and watch that and Fareed. So check that out. Ready to learn Deontay Foreman round 20. It's possible. I am definitely bleeding myself out at running back a little bit here, but it's okay. I just want to get my fun guys, and whatever happens at running back, I think the bet right now is just that Mostert and Swift have legendary years. Legendary years at their 80, 90 ADPs. Worried that the Raiders have been hyping Zamir and have met with no running backs. Is that true? I think they had him Brooks, didn't they? Raiders, according to Walter Football, Jeff is right. They have not met with a running back. I do wonder about the completeness of Walter Football, though, because like we talked about it yesterday with Jalen Polk. I find it hard to believe that nobody's visited with Jalen Polk. Like Jalen Polk is a guy people expect to go in the second round. So either his ADP and his current draft like mocking is completely broken, or nobody's going to take Jalen Polk until the fourth round. So that'll be a pretty good litmus test on how accurate the visit counts was. But I'm a little worried that it's not fully complete on Walter Football. Even though it seems complete, I'm not sure that it is. Zamir had a nice volume based on the season, yes, because he earned the trust, which is a big part for when you have a coach like Antonio Pierce, who's not going to be an X's and O's guy. He's not one of those boy genius offensive coordinators coming up. He's a former football player who just wants the defense to do well. He's a defensive guy, wants the defense to do well, wants to run the ball, committed right away to saying he just wants to give Josh Jacobs 20 touches. He ends up giving Zamir a good amount of those. So, like, that's the main thing. It was a will-based thing for Zamir's success more than it was his talent. Whereas, like, Achane, it was the situation plus his talent. What would be a better example too? I'm trying to think of who would be like a pure talent guy out of the rookie class last year. I guess Gibbs would be a little bit where his talent was so strong they ended up earning more goal line work, even though Montgomery, much better on paper and in practice in the goal line. But Gibbs got the work because he was good enough to kind of overcome. So I guess that's sort of how I would see those things. Zamir is not talented though. Like he's not Gibbs where it's like, holy shit, how did he break this play? Like you just don't see that with Zamir that much. Yeah, for comparison, Gibbs had a 24% avoided tackle rate last year. And then in pass plays, 27%. So he was doing his thing. Counterpoint, Zamir's nickname is Zeus. He does vaguely resemble Zeus from, what was the movie? He's the Hulk Hogan feud was the big one. But he was in that one of the movies with Hulk Hogan too. That was really bad. Over the Top? Was he in the art? No, that's arm wrestling. Somebody in chat may know, but I think that's the comp. Yeah, does he look like a Greek god? He looks like a large country boy to me, like a very large country boy. No holds barred. That's it. Spurious News gets it right away. He gets the prize. Madison could start over Zamir, at least play on third downs. I agree. It's a new offensive coordinator. Ambiguous backfield is always a thing where I believe the talent for Madison, he had the opportunity of all opportunities last year and was just awful. So I kind of think he's done. I wouldn't trust him in a competition, but you could say the same for Miles Sanders. And I take Miles Sanders too, because it's an ambiguous backfield. A new coaching staff means that anybody can win it out. So I think that there is that risk too for Zamir, even though Pierce is bullheaded enough that I think Zamir's probably locked into getting the first shot there. All right. Not a great pocket overall. I can start to make up at running back here. Kirk, a little bit of a discount, though. It's very tempting. I have not gotten enough Charbonnet, even though I do believe in him. He's going to be the first pick no matter what. Jahan Dotson would fit with our bet on Jaden Daniels, but I don't need to do that necessarily. What adds the most value here? I think just capturing Kirk spike weeks is more important to me than figuring out running back. Even though running back is going to get very ugly, Jerome Ford or Jalen Wright could prop up the seam a little bit. More confidence in Ford. I'm taking Kirk. Don't need the third QB, but it's too fun to have the Atlanta double with the two young rookies coming in. So we have Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Kirk Cousins at QB. At running back, we have Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, and hopefully Zach Charbonnet winning another ambiguous backfield in Seattle at running back. Wide receiver, we have our early picks here of Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, and Terry McLaurin. At a tight end, we have Kyle Pitts. So we have the Atlanta double. We have theoretical doubles for Chicago, one for Washington, a single. Team is fun. Running back, we're gonna do some stuff. We're gonna have to hit a lot of volume late at running back, is what I'll say. Rams are crazy. Makes sense they haven't had a first-round pick of the decade. Last year's Rams draft is pretty good, though. Josh Norris tweeted out based on the article that, Peter Schrager did. Peter Schrager, Sean McVay's boy, so does tend to have, that's like his only good source. I think people tend to think he's got a lot of sources. That's his only good source. But basically thinks that the Rams taking a wide receiver in the first round that Schrager intimated might be one that happens. And they also lightly linked Xavier Worthy by some rumors out there. So if you wanted to try to make that bet a little bit, That would certainly be an interesting one. And Worthy earns targets okay, so that would kind of displace Cooper Kupp and Puka to some extent. But, Puka being better in year 2 is probably the main thing. Rams offense to me just feels so precarious, but I felt that way all of last year too. So I kind of have to adjust my priors on that a little bit. But it just felt like a team that just one bad Stafford hit, it all goes bad. Offensive line getting worse. Though they have tried to commit to getting some guys in at offensive line. It's the only moves I think they've made so far, really. Besides bringing back DeMarcus Robinson, and I guess bringing in Colby Parkinson too. Schrager also mocked Polk to the Chiefs at 32. Highly doubt that. I'd be shocked. Yeah, again, Polk not getting visits. I think he's been a second round guy in most mocks I've seen. But if he's not getting visits, he might go round 3. Like he might be the one guy squeezed. Somebody's got to get squeezed in this class. Like we've talked about it enough times. That's part of why too. When you ask me about guys that are like way down the priority and names that aren't talked about very much, like Isaiah Williams or whomever, even the Burtons, the Bakers, those guys. It's like you have so many guys ahead of them that how are these guys going to actually get drafted somewhere good and also land somewhere they're going to have the production, have the upside to make that come together. And, I could be wrong about some guys too. Like even Leggett might be too thin because he's like wide receiver, 10 in the class, 8, somewhere in that range. And it's hard for it to expect 8 to 15 guys to hit, let alone guys 16, guys 17, guy 18, unless you think that guys 16, 17, and 18 are guys that are just completely missed amidst the panning for gold of everybody else. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of, dead wide receiver teams this year. Even though I really believe in this class, I think there's going to be a lot here where people just kind of fell for the wrong guys. Keon Coleman, to me, would be number 1 with a bullet on that. Could end up completely wrong, but I actually am curious about my Keon Coleman exposure now that I'm saying this. I might not have a share. Yeah, I have no Keon Coleman at all. Keon Coleman just could not have played worse in an offense that was theoretically good. So, but we had a shot at Marshawn Lloyd getting pushed back. In some rooms, they just don't like Marshawn Lloyd that much. And I love Marshawn Lloyd, but unfortunately, he goes here to Trevi in the 1 hole, or Trev, whatever. Stetson Bennett would save them. Isn't it? Don't they have another backup now? Rams depth chart. Bennett's going to play again, though, supposedly. Garoppolo, right? Garoppolo's their backup. Suspended, though, for 4 games for his PEDs. And you really saw his performance being enhanced last year. I'll tell you what, for old Jimmy G. Here, Ross got it here. Jimmy G. Coleman and Puka dominated the same combine drill. I don't know. Puka also commanded a 35% target route run rate. Keon Coleman, 27%, and also not a negative EPA. He did still have a barely positive one, but his .003 EPA per target is the lowest in the class of anybody in the class. He's got a big body, but literally the worst analytic receiver in the class in terms of performing above average and earning points for your team. Oh, okay. Well, Ben wasn't being serious, so I won't blame Ben. But people like Keon Coleman, so I need to push back on it because I don't see it. Pearsall, I think, is just going to be a boom bust player, not a big target earner. Can make some spectacular plays. If I had to guess, his ceiling is being like a 4 for 80 and a touchdown kind of guy. This year, maybe in the future, he can get a little better. Still think he's most live for Miami. I don't know how his ADP would move if he went to Miami. I would guess it comes up because people like Miami's offense. But would that make... But I imagine Hill and Waddle wouldn't come down. Maybe Waddle would. That's actually kind of interesting because Miami is definitely a team I could see adding a wide receiver 3 that matters. And Waddle, I imagine, would not be going to 25 if that's the case. I would think that Waddle... What, does he go down to T. Higgins land a little bit more? Yeah, maybe the 40s, late 30s. BBM is going to be interesting to see when it opens up. And obviously, we'll be here doing a draft the moment it does open up. So stay tuned coming up there. And, of course, subscribe so you'll know. Hit the notification bell even, if you dare. 3-3-5-1 here. Have to get a second tight end at some point. Have to get some more running backs desperately at some point. Xavier Leggett, one of my muses. He's here too. GB Pack fan soaking up the clock. Just as I'm ready to get my 2 picks out of the way, he goes up and gets Will Levis for himself. All right, I guess that was a decision he had to talk himself into a little bit. We could take the second tight end here, Michael Mayer, a guy that I think is undervalued, going to be improved. This is a lot of stuff. I can't be in my last rookie draft or pre-NFL draft and not take Xavier Leggett. He's one of my guys. I'm taking him for 1 pick. And I'll go back to the well of fucking stupid Ty Chandler here one more time. For Jaleel McLaughlin, I'm just not as big on him as the public. I think he's an okay play, but good shot that Denver brings in another running back, and Javonte Williams took more work away from McLaughlin than he gave up down the home stretch after he was healthy. Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara is back. New Orleans also linked to pass-catching backs like Dylan Labe in their top 30 visits. That would be awful for Kendre Miller. So I'm a little bit low on Kendre right now, at least until we know what happens in the NFL draft. Like it's staring me in the tits. And look, I'll take him in. I'll take him right. Nuzzle him into my bosom. Nuzzle him. Herbert going to fly up the board in BBM once the stacking Panthers are solidified post-draft. Herbert? Oh, stacking partners. You mean for the Chargers? No, he's not going to soar up at all. The people don't buy in on that offense. Greg Roman being the OC, Harbaugh, it's all been about establishing it. Maybe they're doing some weird boomer misdirection thing, but hard to look past the track record of not passing the ball at high efficiency or high volume. So no, Herbert's not coming up. Maybe if he adds like Harrison Jr., he comes up a little bit, but he's not going to come up to like where he was last year. And you shouldn't expect him to. Frankly, Herbert's one of those guys we talk about a lot here that I'm not sure that even if you like the stack, even if you like the team, even if you took Harrison Jr., if you went to the Chargers or Neighbors and you take, Gus or Dobbins or whomever, even if you take enough Chargers, I don't think you need to go Herbert. And I think you have a decent shot with Herbert that this year in this offense, that a million different guys could beat him in week 17. Fill the NBA playoff best ball contest, you cowards. There we go. Hopefully somebody can fill that. I mean, if the tournament doesn't fill, you just get overlay. So I would say you don't necessarily want the tournament to fill. If you're trying to get drafts done and put more rooms in, then I suppose you'd want it to fill. I think they gave Javonte his shot last year and he was mid while McLaughlin was over. No. That's not the usage pattern that occurred. It was more work for Javonte down the home stretch while they faded McLaughlin back. Still kept P. Ryan in the mix. McLaughlin got his earliest work when Javonte was still recovering. Javonte was back to getting 18 to 25 touches like for most of those games. I'm not going to let's look up the game logs. I hate when I have to do things like this just to prove my point. Yeah, he had 18 and 10 touches last game of the year, 18 and touches the game before that, 14 the game before that, 14 the game before that, 21, 16, 24. So it ebbed and flowed a little bit. Some of these were really bad game scripts, it looks like. But by the end of the year, 9 targets and 9 carries in a game where they were not in control. They lost 27-14. He did not lose any work. He didn't the trend went the other way. McLaughlin got a lot. McLaughlin looked good earlier in the year, and then they just kind of stopped using him as much. What's my lobby exposure? He's a day 3 pick as a legit shot at spike weeks. Not high. I think I need to know where he's going. If he goes somewhere decent, I'm going to be there a little bit more. That's 6.5% for a guy that's not drafted usually. So that's enough for me. I'd rather have the late bet on Brendan Rice, who I think is a stud. Labe is, to me, your hope is that he becomes J.D. McKissick, which he can. That's not how this goes. It's not how this goes. It's the act of giving him more work as the season goes on. It's not that I don't think that's viewing it the right way. You could end up right, but I don't think that's the right way to view it. It's the intent that coaches show as the season goes on. That's the best thing you could do, to try to read their tea leaves. Because if that were the case, wouldn't get work year after year, including from Sean Payton, Alvin Kamara, who's been inefficient for a while and still keeps nurturing his way to another role. It's like coaches like their safety blankets. It doesn't matter. Their intent of giving a guy volume is the biggest thing to read into. I agree Javonte wasn't great, but he got more targets. I think that last game of the year was his highest target count of the year. So he actually took pass game work away from the guys who were taking work away from him in the last game of the year. I hope he becomes CMC for Dylan Labe. Sure. Better than Will Shipley, having that hope for him, I guess. But he's not a good enough runner. I don't think Labe is. Like, his best case outcome is being, I don't even think he's Danny Woodhead. Danny Woodhead was at least like kind of a good rusher. I think his best case outcome is quite literally JD McKissick. Maybe a more likely outcome is Naheem Hines when he still had some relevance. Your big board content's been superb. Glad the draft is close. Thank you, Mr. Grapefruit. I appreciate that. And usage is everything. I agree. Usage is everything, especially when teams don't change shit over and you see a usage trend that's favoring a guy. Like, it's unlikely to change year to year, barring somebody else coming in. Like, if they add in Ray Davis for Denver, I think that hurts everybody in that backfield, but it's still probably like Javonte gets the first crack. And then if he falters, then we see Ray Davis mix in more. Maybe you get McLaughlin mixing in more. So you can make a bet that Javonte just sucks and then they fall out of love with him. But with how Sean Payton coaches, I think that bet would be different for different teams where, a progressive coach, I don't know, like we talked about the ideal guys we like a lot. Mike McDaniel maybe sees his running back being shitty and he goes, yeah, okay, that's enough. Like, let's try somebody else. I don't think Sean Payton sees his running back being shitty and goes, let's try somebody else. I think he just locks in on the guy and stubbornly drives him into the ground. Really like that you elaborate on your takes when we disagree. That's what keeps me coming back and learning from you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And look, again, it still is in a range of outcomes. Like, McLaughlin can hit. I don't want to tell you that he can't, but I think that really, it's following the usage patterns and then just how that changes over the course of a year is the biggest part. And then also, like, the Denver's only getting more New Orleans-y. Like, they brought in Pete Carmichael, I think, is the other guy from New Orleans, who's the last coach that they didn't have, who then got fired by the Saints this year. It's like they're going to do regressive kind of football, low check down, like low A dot check downy kind of offenses, which is why Bo Nix would be perfect for him. But it does benefit, I think, Javonte a little bit more, especially if they get better. Like, if the defense gets better, Javonte is the beneficiary because he's the salting kind of the game away back. But just him getting pass game work. I like Javonte, though. I think at his ADP, I think he's worth a shot. But if you feel differently, then maybe the Javonte and the McLaughlin ADP should be closer. All right, we still need some running backs here. Again, really not a great pocket to do so, but we can. Actually, see a couple interesting moves that we can make here. 3-4-6-1, GB Pack fan. All right, so I think we could have an interesting bet on Miami here where we don't have the receivers. We add in Jonnu Smith. This is a little bit of a wonky team, I admit, but I like Jonnu here. Running back is going to be a problem, but we still have 4, and most of them have roles and a shot to maybe win more of a role. So we're going to do that. And, last rookie draft, who do I think gets the better role between Bucky and Audric Estime? Who gets better draft capital? Audric Estime, I think, ends up down a depth chart for a team that's a power running team. Bucky has the most live shot to be somewhere that needs a pass game back, and he does more. So I am going to take Bucky over Audric Estime here. All right, so we have a 3-5-6-2 so far. Running back is going to be tough, but if Mostert is as good as I'm hoping, I think we'll be okay. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Kirk Cousins at QB. I love the QB room. Running back, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, like the start. Charbonnet, a good pick, ambiguous backfield for Seattle with the new coaching staff there. Ty Chandler, Bucky Irving at running back. Wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, and Xavier Leggett. Got to get a few more receivers in, but the baseline of those top 5 is good enough that I'm not worried about it. And Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith reunited here solely on this best ball team. And we have 4 more picks left. So we'll see what we get back. Noah Fant going to 182. Highest I've seen him go in a while. Frankly, a nice pick, I think. Matt Miller was just hyping up Estime on Twitter. There you go. Look, Estime, if he gets Buffalo, like, Estime is going to smash. Like, if he gets a shot even at that goal line roll, if he can sniff being on a Buffalo roster, he's going to be one of the best backs this year. If he gets on Cincinnati as a guy that's like a lever against Zach Moss, I would take that bet too. For Bucky, I think that I'm hoping that the 2 Texas teams, one of them taking him would be it, because he'd be a good pass game back to have in Houston. You could maybe get both roles in Dallas. What have you grown to love over draft season that you weren't high on? Probably Odunze. Odunze the most. Odunze, I had legitimate questions, and frankly, even look at his numbers again. like he really did underperform Harrison and Neighbors by a good amount, considering the fact that he had 40 more air yards per game than Neighbors, 25 more than Marvin Harrison Jr. So Odunze, I still think analytically there are some flaws in his profile, but who he seems as a guy, as well as the athletic testing, all of that really made me go more on his side. So I think Odunze would be the one that has shifted the most for me, where I think he is now in the top 3, whereas earlier in the draft process, I thought there was a shot that Troy Franklin could be better than him. And I think it's still possible that Troy Franklin can be. Troy Franklin goes to Buffalo. Odunze goes to Chicago. I think Odunze will be fine, but I think like Franklin might have a better rookie year. But Odunze is definitely the one where like I had some real questions. Estime going to Tampa would be really bad for Rachaad White. Estime is a beast. Can't catch passes, so maybe that keeps some sort of role there. Estime to Tampa, that'd be good. The issue, again, Estime has not gotten top 30 visits, so I don't have a lot of faith. It's got to be somebody who is a team that saw him at the combine and was like, all right, well, despite the shitty performance, he did enough on film. We're going to go with him. I think what's more likely is he ends up going to like Philadelphia as their practice squad back. This is like me being a downer about it because I do want to temper my expectations. And if he gets Buffalo, great. But I think Estime goes to like San Francisco to be the new Tyrion Davis-Price kind of thing. Those are the teams that have seen him the most. So like Estime, look through it real fast. Rams saw Estime at the combine. That would be a really nice spot for him. Giants had a top 30 with Estime. Actually, that would be pretty good for him too, because he could definitely take some touches from Singletary. Wouldn't be good for Singletary. Eagles saw Estime at the combine. Niners had a virtual visit with Estime. Ravens, that was another one. Combine visit with Estime. Bills had Estime in for combine and top 30. Oh, that's new. Oh, shit. If Estime goes to the Bills, we are very live. Estime had an LOC visit with the Bears. What's an LOC visit? Local visit. Prospect visited locally? Okay, whatever. Packers saw Estime at the combine. And then we are back to Rams. Bills, though, 2 visits with Estime. Ooh, boy. Ooh, boy. Yeah, local visit. There we go. If Blank goes to Buffalo, you'll smash the classic best ball shaver take. I mean, it's the most open target share and a backfield where, Cook got more work, but they didn't trust him at the goal line. So it, to me, is the most live spot for a lot of things. But that was the case last year, too, where like that was one of the spots I thought Kincaid would do well in. And I think he did well, even though Kincaid now getting the social media backlash about his performance. Even though Kincaid's in a fantastic spot, I think now's the time to not bash Kincaid about his performance last year in an offense where he wasn't on the field all the time, had to compete with Diggs and Gabe Davis, and also Dawson Knox for targets. And he still ended up trumping Dawson Knox pretty handily. Obviously, Knox got hurt too. Not Damian Harris, says my 2023. Yeah, look, I was on the Damian Harris train. I still just think that I'm willing to chase that goal line Buffalo role that they just don't want to give to Cook. Maybe this year they do want to give it to Cook. I don't know, but they gave it to fucking Latavius Murray last year. So I think if Estime goes to Buffalo, I'm going to feel real good about the Estime bags. Thunder and Lightning. Honestly, that would be a really nice pairing. I fully agree with that. Though they don't use Cook enough as a pass catcher to have him be like Lightning in the way that he probably should be. But that would be very Thunder and Lightning-y. I agree. Though I resent comparing James Cook to Reggie Bush and my favorite Thunder and Lightning pairing, Reggie Bush and Lendale White at USC. Josh Norris made a lot of enemies with his Bowers take. I think the thing is, his take wasn't that Bowers isn't a good athlete. It's that we don't know that he's a good athlete, and that's an important part of the process. I think you could poke holes a lot in this sort of part of the draft cycle with people giving their takes and all that. And some of them, people out there not coming by them earnestly. Some of them, frankly, people not doing the work, not researching, not just making comps out of thin air, really. For Josh Norris, though, that's never the fucking case. That guy does his work. So obviously, you've had him on Splash before. I'm probably a little bit biased for that. But he's not like a close personal friend or anything. And in fact, I find it insulting he doesn't follow me on Twitter. So that's the reality of it. But I think he's just so good and so advanced at his takes and and using every tool at your disposal to to make the analysis that you need to make. So I think he was right in how he did it. It's just that people fucking have to cape and defend every take. And I'm as in the bad for Brock Bowers as anybody. I think he's going to be a historical tight end. I think this class is going to be a legendary class of players. So, but that said, you have to account for everything. And Bowers didn't test. So that's really it. Went to a USC game, saw Lendale White run over a linebacker, thought he was going to be a star in the NFL. I will say the one thing that was a bad sign for Lendale White, if you want to go with the old Bill Simmons theory of like, how do you tell who's going to be a great QB? And it's like, when all the other guys are with them, does the QB, is he the guy that they throw the car keys to drive the car? And that was his take. And it's like, okay, it's not really a thing, but I could see where you're going with it. For Lendale White, when I was at USC, he once didn't get into a frat party because he was underage. And it's like, this is one of the star players in the team and you're not letting him in. I was like, that's a bad sign for Lendale White. While all the other football team guys were able to get in. It was like fucking disrespectful to old Lendale. We have the old bailout Miles Sanders here, and I don't see any reason to stop this bullshit now. Miles Sanders, ambiguous backfield. It's been said enough times it's going to be a competition. For my RB6, he is the bailout of all bailouts. This is a tough pick for me. Jalen Hyatt could get displaced by somebody who's better than him, but that offense too can also be dog shit. But they're hopefully going to draft an offensive lineman with their top pick, and Jalen Hyatt, just a better and best ball kind of guy. We'll take Jalen Hyatt. Maybe we luck box Giants and Washington in week 17, which would be okay. That's the hope. 3672 here, where I feel like the core is good. The late picks I'm not in love with. But Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Kirk Cousins, as good of a 3 QB build I think is going to find if you have the beliefs I believe. Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, Zach Charbonnet, Ty Chandler, Bucky Irving, and Miles Sanders at running back. So we could still take one more running back if there is anybody worth doing. Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Xavier Leggett, and Jalen Hyatt at wide receiver. The tight end, Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. Live for one more tight end potentially, but we definitely, I think, could use a running back, could maybe use one more receiver a little bit more. We'll figure it out when we get there. Like Hyatt a lot of his price. He showed a little bit of upside last year, and he frankly had upside with Tommy DeVito throwing the ball. So there's a shot. Just the Giants situation really worries me. The fact that they were kicking around QB for so much. Now they're like, oh, we're not going to take a QB. And it also seems like a lot of the things now tying into Joe Alt, the lineman, which I don't know why that's the only offensive lineman name I know offhand. But Joe Alt being linked to the Giants a lot more. And it would make sense for that team where if you're going to see if you could salvage Daniel Jones' contract, give him more protection because that was the biggest flaw last year. So if that offensive line is a little bit better, maybe that helps a guy like Hyatt somewhat. I just worry about Jones delivering the ball. But round 18 for a guy you know is his best shot is to give you a touchdown, 80-yard touchdown here and there, 50-yard touchdown here and there. We can do it. And for Pierce to be better than last year? No, I think he lost. I think he lost that one. I think it's hard to dig out of a hole when a new coaching staff decides that you can't do the stuff that you need to do. I think they're going to bring in somebody ahead of him or, in competition with him. But the Mixon part, like he's just a pure handcuff. And I think he's a handcuff that gets displaced by a rookie. So my first Isaiah Davis share. He was on the FBS. He was an FBS beast, intriguing day 3 guy. Helps you get unique. Mostly goes undrafted. But I could just keep taking Brendan Rice. That's the flaw. Maybe. Kadarius Toney practicing Mahomes in Texas. Yeah, the Mahomes Texas practice is doing well. Marquise Brown down there. Kadarius Toney also getting some positive cosigns from Andy Reid. I was in the bag for Kadarius Toney last year. Like I thought that he was worth the bet that somebody can consolidate the Kansas City target share. I was also above the field on Rashee Rice, so I made that bet in 2 spots. But he didn't consolidate it. I still think the talent is there. He just last year did kind of fall apart. One thing he had going for him, though, they did feed him the ball pretty aggressively still, despite his flaws. 28% target route run rate. They were trying to give him a touch. Only 3.8 times a game because the routes were down after he blew fucking everything. But he only finished the negative 0.2 EPA per target, which how bad he was earlier in the year. Kind of surprised that he ended up at just negative 0.2. So my first Mechie share last night, Mechie working out with CJ Stroud too. Nico was the only one not working out. It was Tank, it was Diggs, and it was Mechie working out with Stroud in that first workout. I guess Nico looking for a new contract. I don't know what the deal's with Nico. Not Tony again. No, at least if you're taking Tony now, it's round 20. But I agree. I think the Kadarius Toney train has sailed for Kansas City a little bit. But there's routes to go around now, so you can make a bet on him. Got to fill those MVS targets. Got to fill Rashee Rice, whatever he's going to miss. And frankly, too, the issue with Rashee Rice, Like if Kadarius Toney plays Rashee Rice's route tree while Rice is suspended or whatever, if he gets suspended, let's say 4 games, he could get Wally pipped by Kadarius Toney, which would be the ultimate irony. But I think I have a lot of reservations about Rashee Rice, which I have vocalized this entire time pre his legal issues. They've materialized though meaningfully, and I've got more Rashee Rice than I would have thought. 4.8% Rashee Rice, but not a lot. Stroud likes Mechie. I hope so. I mean, didn't like him enough to not try to get his replacement over him. Isaiah Davis goes to Dobby here. So there you go. There's your buzzy FBS guy, Isaiah Davis, going around 19. Lobby around 19 too. Bigsby. These are all guys, by the way, that I would absolutely be okay with. Well, not all of them. Isaiah Davis, maybe because Jeff says so. Besides that, though, Lobby, Tank Bigsby. I'm very happy with those guys being my round 19 bailout running backs. Gainwell, a little bit less so. Gainwell now probably just pure contingent value for Saquon Barkley, pure handcuff value. What do we do? Nico seems like the guy that'll get squeezed in that offense. I agree. And I think if he's not working out with the guys, that's not great. What he and Diggs do is too similar. I know people know the social media stuff flipped on Nico. And look, I've been with Nico. I'm making the bet really mostly on Houston and CJ Stroud having an MVP caliber year. But things have flipped enough that I think that there is some concern point for sure. All right, we got 2 picks coming up here. Figure out what we're going to do. Another person pushing Vidal. Yeah, Kamani Vidal, another one that people seem to be into. I don't see it with the numbers, but yeah, whatever. All right, 2 picks. Give you 3, 6, 7, 2. Ugh, Kamani Vidal. Again, I would rather take the shot on Justice Hill here, and I'm going to do that as a little bailout at running back. For the second pick, I'm not sure yet. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure. Brendan Rice is my guy. I'm going down to the Brendan Rice ship for one more pick, I think is what we're going to do. Let me think about it because we do have Rondale Moore here. Rondale Moore would be a nice pick too to maybe get the lower owned parts of Atlanta, get one more lever against the overall ownership. I'm 2 in the back for Brendan Rice. Let's give the team a read here. Let me just hold on. I'm trying to do something in the other tab. All right, there we go. All right, we got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Kirk Cousins at QB. At running back, Raheem Mostert, DeAndre Swift, Zach Charbonnet, Ty Chandler, Bucky Irving, Miles Sanders, and Justice Hill. Wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Tank Dell, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Xavier Leggett, Jalen Hyatt, Brendan Rice. And a tight end. Maybe a little too thin a tight end, but if we're expecting Kyle Pitts to find his floor this year and hopefully find a ceiling, I can live with it. Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. The fact that Ben Sinnott went also made it tough. Sinnott, Ertz go. Would have considered a third tight end if we'd gotten that right. Rough RB room. Meh. Fuck smooth exposures. Yeah, not for this part. For BBM, I'm going to be more mindful of it. For the big board, kind of don't care as much. All right, guys, let's do some quick plugs here real fast. I'll go full screen for this. Guys, please do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Again, new drafts normally Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. We'll try to get some more drafts out next week, but we'll see here with the little board fills. It might be fucked, but either way, once BBM launches, again, back to new drafts every day, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Check the playlist as well. Check out some of our old drafts. Promo code SPLASH on Underdog will double your deposit $100. Promo code SPLASH on Probably will save your life in sports betting. Will change your life as well. Check it out for yourself. 50% off. Top sportsbooks in the world is what we provide to you. The data from them that helps you make good bets, helps you find winning bets, mathematically profitable bets, and really has changed people's lives out there. 10x the cost of a yearly membership has been a thing. So check it out for yourself at probably.com/subscribe. And I will leave a link to the 7-day free trial in the pinned comments down below. And guys, I'm in another draft room. I snuck into another draft room. I feel like people out there might have known, maybe not. Somehow Kamagpi just gets in every room now. A no badge draft room, guys. A no badge besides a couple, but a lot of non-badges here. So I apologize to all the people that maybe wanted a friends and family one, but you're getting draft too. So let's change the banner. It's a Friday. Why not? I got to do the probably email at some point, but I could do one more draft. That one was long, though. Fucking GB Pack fan held us back. All right, draft number 60. Bait and switch even gives the plugs. Yeah, look. I want some clean rooms here. I want some nice, clean exposures. Sneaky. Look, I did sneak in. Let's do some quick plugs. Robert Griffin III to his wife on Friday nights. There you go. I hope you're getting your quick plugs this weekend, fellas. Plug them and love them. Plug them and love them. That's not an expression. I shouldn't say that like it is. I don't think anybody's ever said the phrase plug them and love them once in life. Drafts starting. See what Jade does. Do we really need to take the full clock for pick one? This is what's going to fucking kill me. Is just Jamar Chase. Jesus. I guess you need the full clock when you're going to take Jamar Chase 101. Christian McCaffrey 102. Whenever you get that, feels like manna from heaven. Not a Christian McCaffrey guy. Conceptually, I do think that he represents the chalk hitting in a way that you are predisposed. You are going to benefit the most from trying to pivot around. But McCaffrey, got to get your shares. To me, being with the field with him is the move. And right now, in terms of my exposures, which we will look at the end of this video, so strap in, guys. I'm at 9.7% Christian McCaffrey right now across the big board and little board. And in just the big board, 8.3% flat. So I am firmly with the field on Christian McCaffrey. Chase went first and last. Oh, did he? I didn't even notice that. Huh. Going a lot. Maybe people flattening out their exposures now that it's filling because they didn't get enough Chase, which is a move. You know, you have two choices when they have that situation where it's like, oh, I don't have enough Jamar Chase. I don't have enough Tyreek. I'm in the 101. Do I want to flatten it out or do I want to really increase my stand, increase my fade on a certain guy? You know, that's a play style choice, but it does feel like a lot of people do. I guess in particular in the end of a tournament, just go like, yeah, let me get Jamar Chase here. Let me get Tyreek. Maybe even a Monra going 101 in some drafts. Big Tyreek guy. Adam, of course, based in Miami, so I'm sure that doesn't hurt. But Tyreek, I have no issue with. I just think he's, the regular season nature of Miami is the part that I disagree with the most. And the fact that Tyreek, another year of age, they bring in somebody else. Like, what if it's not Ricky Pearsall they bring in? What if it's Brian Thomas they bring in? What if it's somebody that actually matters? What if it's Ladd McConkey they bring in? How does that upset the Dolphins depth chart? I think those are your risk points right now. But obviously Miami being a team that's going to put up a lot of points and then, probably fizzle out in the playoffs again. I think that's firmly on the table. Their hope, as I've said yesterday, I think their hope for this year has got to be that they can just blow teams out of the water offensively because that defense is going to be worse this year. So we have, oh God. All right, this spot. I've deliberately been low on Garrett Wilson. I'm just going to fucking do Harrison again. I'm not a Garrett Wilson guy. That's out. It's Kyron and Marvin Harrison for me. We're going to do 2 picks here. Why am I stuck in the fucking 12 hole again? What kind of hell have I brought upon myself? Kyron Williams, Marvin Harrison. Kyron Williams, the logic for him. He basically had Christian McCaffrey level work in the red zone last year. Still think there is a risk point if Audric Estime goes to the Rams. That's going to fuck things up. If Jalen Wright goes to the Rams, it's going to mess things up enough for Kyron Williams as well. But I want to have some exposure here to Kyron, and I am low on Kyron, I believe. Right now, my exposure to Kyron Williams. Actually, no, I was at 8.3%. I was with the field, so now I'll get slightly above, which is fine because I think he's good. One more draft needed. I would have liked to have gotten a draft spot that was not at the turn. It's such like a long wait in between picks, which drives me nuts, especially because I feel like we are in a time period, noticing the drafts this week, where people are really just soaking up every minute to think about their picks. It's tough to be at the turn picking 2 in a row, but we'll persevere. Hate drafting Tua for stacking, so I don't take Tyreek. See, you could take the not Tua part. You don't have to so you could still take Tyreek. That's what I do. Like I've got my first share of Tua yesterday, but I've still taken Tyreek when he's been available for the most part. My Tyreek exposure, 6.7%, but just because I haven't been in the 4 hole a lot, I think, or 3 hole. Wherever he normally goes, I've not gotten that spot enough. I've gotten CeeDee Lamb a good amount, but not Tyreek. I think CD, where am I at with him? Yeah, 10% CD, 8% of Monra. Who else is in that range? Jefferson, you guys know I'm heavy on. 16.7% Jefferson. So we're doing double the field on Jefferson, which I'm okay making that bet. I think my Tua picks have all been auto drafts without stacks. Again, I think the case for Tua is just that Miami's not going to be able to keep teams from scoring, and you can make the case teams around them are getting better as well in the AFC as well as in the AFC East. So how do they win? It's going to be putting up more points. So that's, I think, the hope spot for Tua, as well as the fact that maybe he just realizes at a certain point that I need to run a little bit to keep teams honest. I don't know that's going to change. He's not been a big runner since he got hurt in college, but for Tua, and even before that, he wasn't a big runner. He just ran a little bit more. So I don't know. I think there's still a bet to be made on Tua, but it's not like a fun bet. And I would say it's not even the highest probability bet. When is the last time an RB1 repeated as RB1? I think CMC at the 101 is good, but maybe people trying to get different there. Interesting. I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like it hasn't happened very often anecdotally, but I don't have the data in front of me to look at that. Somebody in the chat might know. But the thing is, like, he doesn't have to repeat as the 101. He just has to give you 18 to 25 points a game and give you the occasional, if he gives you 1 or 2, 30, 40 pointers, you feel good. So that's the hope for McCaffrey, is that he just gives you, like, I think that's the issue I have with running back, is for running back in general, you're just looking for replacement level production, whether it be high level replacement level production, where you want Christian McCaffrey to give you a better version of what Derrick Henry does, a better version of what, Bijan, Saquon, these guys do. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. It's just like, is that going to be enough to keep up with in a week 17? If Tyreek goes for 17 or goes for like fucking, I guess what would it be, like 35, and then McCaffrey only goes for 10 that week for some reason, or only goes for 15. Like, that's the part that is the biggest risk point for a McCaffrey, besides injury risk, the Niners being less good this year. But those aren't expectations. The injury, maybe you can make an expectation. There you go. Jeff, a wealth of knowledge here. Chris Johnson, and before that was LaDainian Tomlinson, is the only RB1s to repeat. But again, like, does it account for like a guy who's an RB1 and then finishes RB3 the next year? Because I would still say then you're not really hurting yourself by taking that guy. You're just giving yourself kind of a floor play. I have not gotten a lot of DK Metcalf lately, and I don't mind grabbing a little bit of him down the stretch. I think Ryan Grubbs being the OC there is a thing that I like a good enough amount. So DK Metcalf, come on down. And I guess there's another share of Tank here. Do I just want to keep doing Harrison and Tank? Rashee Rice, I just can't buy in at this point right now. Slight discount on Josh Jacobs. We're going to go Tank, though. Too many 0 RB teams in this room. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3 0 RB teams that are just taking wide receivers. A couple not doing running back here. This guy going 4 running backs is going to have an awful wide receiver room. But here we go. Team so far: Kyron, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell. So we're making the bet on Harrison Jr., who I like a lot, and frankly, I do like more than Garrett Wilson. I would take Puka over Harrison. I would not take Garrett Wilson over Harrison personally. And then Metcalf, Seattle's offense, I've not made enough bets on, but they're going to be better. Or Geno Smith's going to lose that job, and then maybe they get better. But that's sort of the make or break for them. And Tank Dell, Houston, I'm as in the bag as anybody for Houston. Tyreek feels like people are overthinking it. Still the fastest player in the league. That's fair. I'm happy to get him. It's just, for me, at pick 3 or pick 4, I'm not always getting him there. But I think he's a fine play. I think all these guys, to me, like Chase, I don't think is a real 101. Like Chase, Hill, Lamb, Amon-Ra, Jefferson, I think they're all functionally the same play. And then you have a shot at Puka being a similar play at slightly later. A.J. Brown, you can make the case. I don't think he's the exact same play as those guys, but I think some people do. Do you think Miami could be figured out this season? I think they keep getting figured out down the home stretch of every year when defenses tighten up and the defense actually look good. I think that's part of why they're going to add weapons. I think that's why they signed Jonnu for the deal they did. I think they recognize their weaknesses, and it's that, like their defense, it's not getting better. Like, you can't lose Wilkins and you're not going to get better with that situation. So for them, I think they have to really double down on offense and maybe get more creative, would be the hope. But they're just they're like doing Phoenix Suns in the NBA back in the days of Mark D'Antoni. Like, they're doing a 7 seconds or less kind of offense right now, where that offense needs to be so good to make up for the fact that they cannot stop anybody on the other side of the ball. And it's only going to get worse. What's the difference with AJB? I think it's that you have Devontae Smith there would be a big part. Again, getting the same deal basically as AJ Brown. AJ Brown also doing some weird social media thing this week where, I don't know, he's either doing a joke bit. It was in the Fantasy Life newsletter, but basically this week changed his icon or his avatar, it's Tom Brady, and then followed the Patriots or something, doing some weird shit for AJ Brown. I don't know. I guess he's doing a bit to make fun of the wide receiver stuff and how they take the team out and follow another team kind of thing. Or he could actually just be a fucking lunatic like he has been in recent years. Who knows? Is Jefferson the 1-2 if they draft JJ? No, because people don't like JJ McCarthy enough. But I think he would be. I think he should be. Tyreek, you can make the case, though, was closer to getting 2K yards last year. So, and CeeDee Lamb came on so strong. I just don't think you can go wrong. Like, if I had to rank these guys, and I have a hard time doing it because I really do think it's a flat tier, I would probably rank them in terms of my expected production for the year. I think it would be Jefferson 1, CD 2. It might be CD 1, Jefferson 2. I would need to think through that. Tyreek 3, Chase 4, Amon-Ra 5. I think Amon-Ra gets another receiver in there. I think Detroit does what they did last year with Gibbs, and they take somebody that's going to move this offense to another level. And I think they add in a really big wide receiver 3/2 displaces Jameson Williams. Antonio Brown's Twitter is one of the weirdest things in the world. He's just gone mad, or he's doing Kanye level performance art / also gone mad. I don't know. Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown at 1 stack or ASP. Oh, I don't know what you're saying. But sure. That sounds credible. All right, we're on the clock here. Oh, this is a tough one. Love Brian Thomas Jr. as a wide receiver 4. CJ Stroud, like the bet on him. I like Mixon enough to make a bet on Houston. AR is here. That's okay. First pick's Brian Thomas Jr. No matter what, Brian Thomas Jr. This is probably the last draft of the big board for me. I think what we do, we're going to say, look, we're not going to be able to beat the full Houston stacks at this point. We don't have Nico. We're not going to have Mixon. We don't have Diggs. We're going to take AR. We're going to hope that he can beat Stroud in week 17 for this team. I put on the jersey one more time. I see D. Owens. I know your take. Sure, we can take Stroud one more. But why do that? We have our man. Anthony Richardson, come on down. A little bit of an ADP discount even. Not that Stroud wasn't cheaper, but still. Team so far, Anthony Richardson at QB, who's going to beat the shit out of CJ Stroud week to week and in week 17. Kyron Williams at running back, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, and Brian Thomas Jr. I guess at this point, we're playing the hope that Brian Thomas Jr. goes to Indianapolis, which would make a lot of sense. I think a much better pick for them than trying to come up and get... I mean, Harrison obviously is a better player, but in terms of the draft capital you need, for them, I would take Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know what the fuck this guy's doing. Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Jalen Hurts, triple elite tight end is not a move you want to make. Yes, the bit usurp sound stack. It's not about sound stacking strategy necessarily. So, here's the actual reason why I feel like Stroud was not a must-have pick there. If I took Mixon, it would have made a lot more sense. I didn't want to take Mixon because I already have the running back. But it's that I'm competing with Tank Dell. I'm going to be competing against a lot of Stroud plus Tank plus Diggs, Tank plus Nico teams. I just don't think that's the way I can win, really. That's not the pathway to victory in week 17. The pathway to victory is beating CJ Stroud with AR straight up. So that's my logic. But okay, there you go. I made the good case. I'll make it one more time. But that's the tournament theory for me. That's the DFS part of it that I'm willing to embrace a little bit more this year. Frankly, embraced a little bit last year, and I think it did okay. But I just want to get, want to be mindful of what's going to be setting up against me if I'm building a team that might be a little bit chalky in the spot I'm drafting. That's it. Ultimately, it's an AR Brian Thomas Jr., the week 17 stack you need. Honestly, it's a very viable outcome. I'm at pick 15. That is prime Brian Thomas range or prime not that expensive to trade up and get Brian Thomas range. So I think he's live for it. Drafted my last 80 drafts today. Yeah, I'm going to get $800 worth of entries put in today. No. This will be it. I honestly feel like for me too, 60 drafts is enough at this point. I think people underplay the amount of like protecting yourself from burnout stuff and also protecting your bankroll too. Like that's the biggest part for me is just making sure I got enough to get through BBM. But like for me, like right now, especially, it's like I just gotta doing the one draft a day on stream or maybe a couple if I'm in the mood keeps me so much fresher than trying to do like all of that plus max out the tournament in my own time. I would have had to put another 90 entries in my own time while having a startup and having a child. And no disrespect, like I'm willing to do that for BBM because I think you have to. For the big board, we might have outplayer taked, out-newsed ourselves enough. Soft, and by soft, I mean well-adjusted. Yeah. Can't max out everything. Oh. I do not know the answer to that yet. Possible. Depends on what Pete's schedule is and whatever works in. Do you know I'll be doing the ship chasing NFL draft show next week, though, with I think they're doing like 45-minute blocks. So I'll be back on there doing one of those blocks, which I think been doing every year for like 4 straight years now. So that'll be fun to be back on there with those guys. So that'll be one thing coming out next week. And then hopefully we'll have the little board drafts to do, or they'll put something else out as a placeholder. Figure out what we're going to do next week on stream. Nothing else, I'll do like my final rookie player take video if there's no drafts being done or drafts worth doing. Something coming up on the channel next week, no matter what. And then BBM the week after. Assumption is that BBM rolls out probably the weekend of the NFL draft. So we'll be back doing those drafts Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. the week of whatever week that is. The week of the pull up calendars. Week of the 29th would be when that is. Scratch still reading Henry David Thoreau. I don't know. I don't know what he's reading right now. Do you know he did the guest booking, though? He was the one that reached out to me. All right, a 1140 here. Correlation-wise, nothing to write home about. Aaron Jones going in the 80s. All right, I can live with that. Aaron Jones in the 80s, we'll do that. Anybody want to go up and get here? Not really. Just another Mostert chair. This team is like a real working man team, I feel like. Not necessarily getting outside the comfort zone too much. But I think Mostert just works for this one. And then, honestly, I think we can dial back on running back for a while. So the team so far, Anthony Richardson in QB, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert at running back, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, and Brian Thomas Jr. No tight ends yet. AFC South bet, I think that Jones and Mostert are just much better players than Pollard. And frankly, Harris. Swift, I think, can be in their range scoring-wise. But, yeah, maybe you can make the divisional correlation. I just wanted the best players. Or the guys that I perceive as the best players. BBM, no, it's BBL. Yeah, look, I'm sure, Adam, your Brazilian butt lifts, sure doing well. Except the way you drafted Kyron, Spags playing twice for being held at gunpoint. Honestly, in this room, with how the wide receiver stuff got frothy, I do wish that I could have that pick back and maybe could have added in. I just didn't want to do Drake London and Harrison again. But I do think I could have used that pick for one more. Honestly, maybe could have done the fun neighbors thing and just taken him there at the turn. But Kyron I like a lot. Kyron had the workload, a volume back who also was a plus EPA rusher. Some risk, again, that he loses the role a little bit this year, because they want to keep him healthy. And there's enough backs in the class you can get for cheap, whether it be a Jalen Wright, whether it be an Estime. But I still like Kyron enough. I want to be a little bit above the field. I figured. I have to explain it, though, because people you don't see me draft a lot of him, but he is one of the backs I'm above the field on in the first round. Or, second round. Where am I on Gibbs? Going to look at exposures after this. 1.7% Gibbs. I have one share of Jahmyr Gibbs. So I'm out on Gibbs. Feels like Jones and Kevin O'Connell's offense could smash. He can. The risk is that he has to stay healthy and that they also have to use him enough. They've already been pretty clear they want to use Ty Chandler to some amount because of the fact that Jones just can't handle the full bell cow workload. But a pick 84 for a Minnesota offense that I just think is going to be good enough. And I think people are downplaying. I think O'Connell is a great coach. I think that Jefferson, Addison, good talent to have there. Hawkinson will be back at some point. Until then, Josh Oliver is going to do a good job blocking for the run game. So Aaron Jones, it's just health. Health and them being competitive enough down the stretch would be the two things. Issue with Kyron is to quote Al Zeidenfeld, just don't trust Sean McVay. It's fair. I mean, if there's anybody he's shown the most willingness to ebb against what everybody else expected, it has been Kyron Williams, where Kyron was ass his rookie year. I know our guy Tyler will go, he was hurt. He had the high ankle sprain, whatever. He still was ass. Like he came in, didn't show much. Was a negative EPA pass catcher, negative EPA rusher. And then, they showed the faith in him, gave him the third down role. Then they saw enough that Cam Akers doesn't have to be there anymore. So I think that they have shown more faith in him than they've shown in a lot of guys, probably since Todd Gurley. And just the last 10 seasons, only 2.5 running backs finish in the, okay, I don't know what that's supposed to say, in the 212 season to season. Top 12. Got it. Yeah, running backs are just a safety position. That's always been the thesis of going zero RB, is that you can find, 15 points somewhere else. For wide receivers, you usually can't find 40 points late in the draft. Last year, of course, being a noteworthy aberration with Puka in the mix. And Tank to a lesser extent. 1340 here. I feel like I've just not been enjoying these pockets. I know everybody always wants me to take Josh Downs. I normally don't take Josh Downs very much because I think he's going to go the wrong way ADP-wise. I imagine he's going to end up in the 130s, 140s when Indianapolis adds somebody who is better. But I will take Josh Downs here. And Nick Chubb for this running back room, I don't think does much. Wouldn't mind Ladd here. Oh, man. Can make a bet on Houston a little bit here. I'm going to give myself Dalton Schultz. We're going to make a bet on some Houston touchdowns. But again, we're going to go with the thing that AR beats out Stroud overall. So we have good parts of the Houston stack, hopefully, with Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz. Team so far, Anthony Richardson at QB, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert at running back. So need some more running backs, but don't necessarily need to take them right now. Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., and Josh Downs for our AR correlation, and Dalton Schultz at tight end. Ladd was in consideration. Josh Downs' price is so rough. I agree. If he were cheaper, I would like that more. I think that Ladd should be ahead of him, honestly. Obviously, if we, assume Ladd's going to get a good spot, which I do, or a good enough spot. Rams proved the zero RB thesis when they signed on an RB off the street. Went for 160 yards. Talk about CJ Anderson a couple years ago. I think that's who you're referencing. But yeah, I mean, that's what I've thought the Cowboys should do. And it kind of seems it's what they're doing so far. I do think they're going to take a rookie, probably at decent draft capital, but they're going in with just no vets, it looks like. When you sign Royce Freeman, it does seem like an indication that, and bring back Rico Dowdle, and then add one rookie, maybe two. You're just going in and hoping that one of them is good enough and stands out and wins the role. And I think that's the way you should approach running back. Just bring in, for best ball and for real life teams, just bring in volume and see what wheat separates from the chaff. That's it. All right. So much time between picks. I feel like for the last two drafts, these have been hard. It's hard to keep momentum going when there's this much time in between. It's like every round, every area between rounds is like having to come up with a new segment idea of things to talk about. And my back hurts. I need to stretch. Troy Franklin goes at 118. Again, if you are new to the streams here, Troy Franklin, I think he goes to Buffalo. 3 visits with Buffalo so far. Boy, if Franklin and Estime go to Buffalo, that would be one of the nut runouts of me having early takes on those guys than anything, especially as the rest of the industry has bumped Troy Franklin down in rankings, has bumped Estime down, even though some people do. So we talked about do Cape for Estime a little bit. But it would definitely be something if Franklin and Estime both got Buffalo. But of course, knowing my luck, it'll be 80 Mitchell and I don't even know. A.D. Mitchell and Will Shipley get the Buffalo jobs. CJ Anderson's situation in 2018 transformed you into zero RB, bro. Lost to the guy who picked him up off the streets of the fantasy finals. That's tough. To lose to that in the finals would be very tough. But yeah, that's the testament, though. It's about will of the team to give the guy touches and then how good the team is around him. And if the guy's good, then he's going to go nuts and he's going to do, things above and beyond. But a lot of times you end up with just that guy coming in and just being not as good as a starter. So you just don't know. The Jamal Williams situation last year, if you guys remember the week 1 DFS chalk, Jamal Williams versus Tennessee. Everybody was there because there's no Kamara. And Jamal Williams has no juice, and Tennessee is a shutdown run defense. And that was the combo for an immediate chalk bust in week 1. Swellness J makes his pick. Rashid Shaheed. I feel like this part of the draft, these teams that everybody's building to, I just don't feel anything for him. I just feel like we're just going through the motions of the final draft here. Trevor Lawrence, what's this guy correlating with? Iconoclast. That's one of our guys, right? People like Christian Kirk at 43. I very much do not like him, but people do like him. Josh Allen with Khalil Shakir. I do like that. Khalil Shakir, one of the top EPA players in the league last year, despite actually playing good volume. Now he's got an open depth chart. I'm sure somebody's going to come in there, but Khalil Shakir, to me, a little better in the 130s, but if you got Josh Allen, I got it. Jalen Wright at 129. I'm surprised to see that. I feel like in a normie room, I would have thought that Gus Edwards goes ahead, but I guess Gus maybe being displaced for people because of J.K. Dobbins coming in, reuniting the old Ravens backfield in a move that nobody wants to see, really. Well, I've got no correlation here. Though, actually, you know what? I don't need running back. I don't really need running back. We're getting Jaden one more time, of course. Jaden Daniels one more time, and then Jahan Dotson with him. I've not done this stack very much. I honestly might be really low on Dotson shares. I've got 5% Dotson. So we'll get a Dotson share here with Jaden Daniels. I do think he's the guy going to Washington. Having AR and Jaden Daniels, to me, is like a perfect QB pairing to have. 2 guys that are going to give you the rushing upside. Hopefully AR improving as a passer as well. Jaden Daniels, I expect him to hit the field and be a great passer. So teams so far, 2, 3, 6, 1, Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson at QB, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, and Raheem Mostert at running back. Wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, and Jahan Dotson. And Dalton Schultz giving us some Houston correlation without taking the Houston QB. I like it. I think that Indianapolis-Houston would be a very live Week 17 matchup, both in terms of how the NFL would schedule it, and also I would guess that game would have to have a high 40s total, if not low 50s. After this drafting takes a week-long break. Don't cry because it's over. Sorry that it happened. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to that's the thing is I wouldn't mind taking a 1 week break from drafting and just being I'll be reinvigorated for BBM, but it's the week before the NFL draft. So I don't want to not do any content next week, but I would agree for you guys out there, if you're just trying to keep yourself fresh, as we talk about a lot here, the mental health aspects, the just keeping yourself invigorated and exciting to draft teams. I would say if you fill the big board or you get whatever entries in the big board, just chilling for a week, watch some NFL draft news, read some stuff maybe, then come back for BBM reinvigorated. That'd be my suggestion. Honestly, what I might consider for myself too, even though I'll still do some stream content next week. That's a thought. Christopher. All right, well, here we go. I got Christopher. Christopher, welcome to the family here. The snatch catcher is the guy. That's already a mafia name for Christopher. But Christopher, of course, if you're not familiar, his username on Underdog is in fact snatch catcher, because this guy Christopher, he'll snag some pasta fazool and he'll catch all of the snatches. Well, welcome to Christopher, Maron, Christopher. Welcome to the family, Chrissy. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I've told this story on stream before, but when I was a kid, as Italian families do, they do call Christopher's Chrissies. My family called me Chrissy for a while, and at a certain point, we hung out with This other Greek family that I don't think was related to us, but because I would hope not, given that I was trying to impress the similarly aged, like 8, 9-year-old girls. I was like, you guys can't call me Chrissy anymore. You're making me sound like a little boy. And my family had to give me a quarter every time they would call me Chrissy after that point, because they called me Chrissy all the fucking time. Not enough to make real money, but for a 9-year-old or whatever, crushed on those quarters. Little double draft. Yeah, a little double draft is a treat here. And guys, if you enjoy this double draft, you enjoy me just fucking wallowing at the turn, please do subscribe here. Drafts normally every Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. And of course, might take a little bit of a breather next week, even though it's still going to be doing some content. Not sure if I'll have drafts every day. I'm not even sure if we'll have drafts to do every day, but still, Splash Play marches on here. And once BBM hits, that is the real hitting the ground running there. We were the first stream to draft the big board. And I don't know if we'll be the first to draft BBM, but we'll definitely be the most prolific. That is the goal. I don't even know how many drafts I'm going to get on stream. Because honestly, it's going to be, if I do one a day, it'll be 20-ish a month. So we'll have 20 in May. Let's say a couple in April. Like 23 overall. Another 20-ish in June. So we're talking 40 there. July, another 20-ish. 60. Talking about half my portfolio being streamed, I guess. Maybe more than half. Probably be closer to like 2/3. Last year, BBM opened, I think, actually on the Saturday of the draft. This year, we'll see. I would imagine it's going to be similar, though. They definitely haven't done anything later. Spags baby boner is rising up to the... I can't. 2, 3, 6, 1 here. One more little taste of Leggett at this point. Could go for the RB4 here. I'm going to take Braylon Allen as my RB4. Again, ever since our guy Jeff has talked me into him being Dallas's running back, I'm taking my shots. He'll be the RB4 for me. Leggett, Mims, I don't mind. Quentin Johnson, talk me into it after the draft, maybe. They get nobody at wide receiver. Mayer would not be a bad tight end too. But I like it being wide receiver 7. I'm going to get Mayer here. I'm going to do the responsible thing here and not bleed myself out of tight end. I think Mayer takes a leap this year. General coming into last year, high target per route run guy. Vegas being better, whether it be Gardner Minshew, whether it be a rookie coming in. That's a part of the bet here, but also Mayer, more red zone opportunity opened up, which should be huge for him without having to force feed the ball to Josh Jacobs. Mayer, I think, is a guy that takes a big jump. So pick 157 for me, Michael Mayer. Team so far. AR and Jaden Daniels at QB. Of course, would not take a tight end at all with AR at this point. Given the shot, they could have Brock Bowers or just the tight end suck for the Colts. Both are equally there. But AR and Jaden Daniels are running back. Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert. And then we get a little bit younger with Braylon Allen. Wide receiver, we have Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, and Jahan Dotson. Dotson here to correlate with our Jaden Daniels because, I've not correlated a lot of those two together on the assumption that Jaden's going to Washington. And then a tight end, we have Dalton Schultz and Michael Mayer. Could be done a tight end, could take a third. We got flexibility. What do you think of doing a private draft on Underdog just for members, and we could have a season-long group chat on WhatsApp to make it fun? If there were, it's possible to do things for paying members, but I wouldn't it would be for the paying members on the channel. And we have talked about that before of doing like a monthly members only draft. It's a little hard to coordinate with everything because of people having jobs and me streaming at 11 a.m. So that's been the thing that I've observed when trying to plan it. But yeah. If we do something, though, it would be for people who are Squirt Squad members with the join button, but it's possible. The main thing you're going to get, though, if you are a Squirt Squad member, so coming up, so after the draft, I will finish up. I promise it'll be the week after the draft, some point, but probably the earlier the better is going to be my goal. I will have the Spags rankings out, including rankings that you can use on Underdog. I can't account for how often I'm going to update them. I'm probably going to update them when I feel like I really need to move stuff around. I have to figure out what the workflow is, but that's going to be coming through the premium Discord. So if you are a member of the channel, if you hit the join button, that's the first thing there. Second thing you're getting too, which I have not promoted enough. If you want team reviews on here, if you are a paying member of the Splash Play YouTube channel, you can send me your teams on Instagram or Twitter at Chris Spags, whichever you prefer. I will review your teams usually within 24 hours at the latest. But basically just send them to me if you want, if you are a paying member on here at Chris Spags. If I don't follow you or whatever, I'll just, I don't know, let me know in chat if I miss your DM, but I do check the requests when I know it's coming. So check that out. That's another key perk here. So Spags rankings coming up after the draft. And then also the team reviews that's going on right now. If you want me to look at shit from your big board, if you're a paying member, send me that. Up to 10 a month is what the limit is there, because I got abused incredibly quickly last summer. Spags rankings will be my Bible. Can't wait. I hope so. Could do a slow draft. I don't know, but then that's not content. I don't know. I'm open to suggestions, and there's got to be something that you guys like want as a group, because it's hard to shepherd cats with people having jobs and stuff. Herd cats, shepherd cats. Jobs? Steve Jobs? What jobs? Oh, your jobs. Yeah, I mean, I assume that people have jobs. You just like hearing your name. Yeah, that is the other perk, is I do read everybody's name at the end of the week as well. And the reading of names coming up. We're going to look at exposures for my final big board exposures here, because I'm probably not going to draft a team off stream. I guess it's possible I draft one if it's open tonight, but likely my final exposures. Robert Griff III, probably the best case study of my review service. Did a lot of talking with Robert. Ross is his real name. I can't call you Robert. Like, yeah, that's... But talked a lot with Ross last year about his teams, and he had good results for what he did. So hopefully we'll improve on him this year. But in general, it's a conversation, just pointing out stuff, trying to observe your tendencies and things like that. You can try to break. And again, for $5, I think, I think the hard part of the feedback is I sometimes go like, I don't know, this team is probably not one I want to draft, but I think you did okay. But I think it does add value, and I give you like a pretty long response to things to try to help you get some value out of it. All right, we have the 2462 here. I'll get one more estimate share. I'm playing the hits at this point. Rico, to me, just a pointless pick. Something's coming in there, even if it is Royce Freeman. Something's going to upset him. Wide receiver pocket. Corley could add some value. Going to add Corley. Not huge on him. Earned targets at a high level at Western Kentucky. Good after the catch. Has had a lot of good top 30 visits. That's the hope. So this team right now is a 2-5-7-2. We have AR and Jaden Daniels here. Of course, why else would I be wearing the jersey if I didn't draft Anthony Richardson? We have Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, Braylon Allen, and Audric Estime at running back. Wide receiver, we have Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, Jahan Dotson, and Malachi Corley, and a tight end, Dalton Schultz and Michael Mayer. So we have little bets on Houston, micro correlation there. We have some stacking with Indianapolis. We have some stacking with Jaden Daniels. Really, a little bit more of a player pick draft, I feel like. Any good sniping going on yet? No. There's no such thing as good sniping going on. I can tell you that. As a fan of Cleveland Steamers, I'm okay with getting shat on team reviews. I still try to keep it, I would say PG. I try to keep it like balanced, because I don't want to, like, there's no such thing as a bad draft ultimately. Like, if you're drafting 8 straight running backs, if you're drafting 7 QBs, not that you could do that anymore, those are bad drafts. But for most of you guys out there, it's like, just because you hit running backs early, I don't think that's the optimal way to draft sometimes. But you could still have a good team around that. So that's kind of the main thing. I really functionally believe that too. Like, there really is. It just comes down to, did you survive 16 weeks of the year? Did you have enough spike week guys in week 17? And whatever that means for you, it's going to be a lot harder to get that through just the parlay player picking of getting 20 rounds of individual players correct. So you do want to have some correlation, but besides that, like, any team can win in week 17. I try not to be that precious about that. I know it's like hard to say when you're a content creator that people are looking for like, guidance about stuff. But realistically, like, it could be a fucking an Achane Kyron Williams team that wins, where they just hit the nuts by getting DK Metcalf and Tank Dell and Brian. They hit the nuts by drafting my exact team, but with slightly more running backs. Like, that's possible. So something to keep in mind with best ball. I think that's why it's a mix of structural drafting, ADP values, and then, knowing your own abilities about how to work a room and pick players, putting that all together. How did you come up with the name Splash Play? Well, initially, I don't know if this was deliberate, but S&P, Spags and Pete, so that was part of it. And then Splash Play, because the Splash Play is the big play in football. So that's what the show is a celebration of, is of the big plays. Obviously, we talk more about, and I talk more about fantasy in general, but ultimately that's what fantasy football is. To me, it is a game of volume, but like the best parts for you, the parts that make the biggest gains, are your big plays, whether that be, you being Fareed Shaheed and winning BBM4, whether that be a quarterback throwing 50 yards downfield and making for a touchdown. Like, those are the big plays. So that would be the thing. S&P, yes. Just like it's like the markets as well. It's good 2 hours of Spags. I hope so. I hope somebody's mowing a lawn tomorrow and they're like, thank God Spags went on for 2 hours. It's the dream. Jalen McMillan going to 196 here. So a little bit of steam coming his way. Great AFC visits for him. All the top contenders have seen Jalen McMillan for some reason. I think he gets a nice outcome for himself. So I agree with that. Luke McCaffrey at 198 is batshit. That's not a good pick. Love Pat's article about when you snipe, you ruin your team because now you have an unstacked QB. That is true. Sniping ruins your own team and theoretically allows the opportunity for the other team. Fareed Shaheed, mentioned him a lot today. You can check out a stream with Pete coming up on Best Ball After Dark. But his team was better for the fact that he got sniped on one of his stacks. So he ended up getting another stack with it. So as long as you're then cobbling together another stack, like, to me, this team makes sense more so. I passed on Stroud for Houston, but let's say like I didn't pass on Stroud. Somebody took him from me. I then got more unique by adding an AR stack on top of that, as well as a QB that can outscore Stroud. So if you get sniped, that's the hope. You need to then tack on another stack, maybe ideally with a QB that can beat the QB you got sniped on, if you can make that work. Oh, good. Splashes cause ejaculating helmets, which beget the Squirt Squad. That's not why we came up with the name. But the branding, though, I'll have a hard time changing the branding at any point because I do love our logo. All right. We have a little bet on Seattle here, but I'm not going to take Geno Smith. I will take Noah Fant, though, to increase that bet on Seattle for a tight end 3. And am I just going to fall into this fucking trap again of Miles Sanders? How much? I'm not even going to look at my Miles Sanders exposure, but I just think he's been undervalued this entire draft because it's an ambiguous backfield. This might be one of the worst takes in terms of results I get. But Miles Sanders, I'm taking him one more time for my RB6. And now we're done at RB. Team is a 2-6-7-3. AR and Jaden Daniels at QB. Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, Braylon Allen, Audric Estime, and Miles Sanders. So the big 3 here are carrying the water. But the hope is we get one of these guys to have a real role throughout the year. I think that's the hope. Wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, Jahan Dotson, and Malachi Corley. And a tight end, Dalton Schultz, Michael Mayer, Noah Fant. And we are live. Oh, Brendan Rice goes. I was going to say we are live for Brendan Rice the 19th, but no, he goes to Fulham here. You really did ruin my brand. It was just a cute little video game helmet. I love the 8-bit graphics, and you guys are like, no, it's cum. Everything is cum. Like, oh, okay, well, never mind. How did you not bonk yourself with the squirters the entire stream yesterday? There wasn't anything sexy we were talking about, was it? I guess the WNBA players is bonkable. I'll give a delayed bonk. Yesterday's stream, if you missed it, guys, really would recommend it. I would recommend watching the whole playlist, to be honest, but skip around. There's some episodes that are probably good and we hit the ground running fast. Some maybe less so. And if you are new to Best Ball, if you're just getting in now for some reason, promo code SPLASH, check that out. Obviously, a good time to deposit. Match your deposit up to $100. Get a mystery pick 'em as well if you're a new customer. But check it out on Underdog. Gonna be getting some real noobs coming in soon. I imagine there just aren't a lot of people that aren't already on Underdog, like coming on and watching a stream at this point of the year. But when we get to May, June, July, we're gonna be seeing you guys are gonna be seeing a lot of fucking random idiots who just come in here, have not been doing their prep at all, have not been obsessing about this, which doesn't make them an idiot, to be clear. But, coming in with all the confidence in the world about Dalvin Cook and him landing in Dallas as the RB7. So we're going to have a lot of fun here this summer, too. The kind of fun that's going to drive me insane, but hopefully will still be fun. Fun for you guys, if not fun for me. What did this draft room? Gardner Minshew gets drafted? He doesn't even have Devontae Adams. But he doesn't have a second QB. So he took an unstacked second QB. It's got into 3-hole. He took Burrow unstacked as well. Just stupid. Just not going to do anything for you. You got to have some stack on there, man. Zeno. And a black badge, too. Guy's done 500 drafts. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. You can watch me suffer on DraftKings. Going to get that back in the mix at some point, too. Maybe drafters as well. It's not only Underdog out there, guys. Sometimes you have to watch the other platforms that make me want to hang myself. Aeneas Smith going. Wide receiver. Like, are there a bunch of teams with like 10 wide receivers? I feel like wide receiver got bled out in a way here that it normally does not. Yeah, 2 9 wide receiver teams, bunch of 8 wide receiver teams. I guess that'll do it. Last 2 picks here, then we'll look at exposures. We'll do the reading of names. We'll get in at a tight 2 hours. You could watch Titanic or you could watch me close out the big board. Your choice. How far Elijah Moore has fallen. Remember when last year everybody was like taking him in the fucking 80s? Again, for no reason. Yeah, no good. No good. Honestly, Elijah Moore may be undervalued, I guess. Jerry Jeudy doesn't matter that much that he should be going to 220 if people out there thought he was valued as highly as he was last year. Without DK, we don't get the Jerry draft. That's true. We did get one of our favorite characters in the history of Splash Play, Jerry, a man who thought that Dalvin Cook was going to be the salvation for the Jets at running back. And I was an idiot. I was a fool for not thinking that. I think that's the worst part of the takes too that come in May, June, July, August is like people don't know because they're just watching a stream, just flick around on YouTube. And you don't realize like, oh, I've been doing this prep work since January and I come in and I get challenged on takes and I reevaluate them and look at them. And people just come in fucking talking with their whole chest about the dumbest takes that have been thought through 700 times over. 2673 here. Really have no feel for what I want to do at this point. Anything with AR? Take one more shot at fucking Alec Pierce. I'll get a Johnny Wilson chair. One more here because I am low on him, even though I think he is a valid player. And I don't really like this pick, but does wide receiver do anything for me? People like Yoshevitz. I'm not big on Yoshevitz. I think Alec Pierce is going to lose his job no matter what. I think Madison or Bigsby appeal to me a little bit in this build. We have a little bit of a bet on the on Vegas rather. We're going to take Madison here. So I don't think we needed it, but I don't think we need another receiver really. So the final team here, a 2-7-8-3, AR and Jaden Daniels, Kyron Williams, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert, Braylon Allen, Audric Estime, Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison. So really just hoping one of these 4 guys ends up being enough to be my RB4 on the year is the entirety of that bet. Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Downs, of course, correlating with AR, Jahan Dotson, theoretically correlating with Jaden Daniels, Malachi Corley, Johnny Wilson, just cheap rookies that I think have upside. Schultz, Mayer, Fant. We have bets on Vegas, bets on Seattle, bets on Houston that are correlated. So these are the kind of teams I like, even though the main stack's flimsy a little bit. We do have double with Houston. We have a double with Seattle. We have a double with Vegas. A gross double, but a double. So we have some fun bets here that I think work. So that's going to be my final draft here. Let's go look at my exposures. Okay. We can mock me accordingly. We'll not include that last draft because that last draft is still going. All right. 62 teams filter down only to the big board. So 60 teams. I think this includes the draft that I just did. No, because I did a few off stream. Now I'm all thrown off. Well, anyway, close enough to my final exposures. We can do them. So my overall top 5, Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels at a tight 33%. That was not intentional, but it works out okay. Jerome Ford, my number 3. Marshawn Lloyd, number 4. 2 bailout guys and 0 RB builds, and you could see me going to them over and over and over again. And Malik Neighbors, somehow I came up to get 30% of him, which I was taking him the entire time in the 30s. He came up, and I've reached for him a few times. I'm surprised to see that I got 30% Neighbors, but I like the bet. Top 5 QBs, of course, basically same thing for me as last year. Heavy up on the rookies before the draft. Jaden Daniels is at number 1 by a wide margin. Then it drops off a cliff. 2x the field, Drake May. 2x the field with Anthony Richardson. I guess a little bit less than 2x. JJ McCarthy, I'm there heavily as one of my bailouts. Bryce Young, there heavily as one of my bailouts. I don't believe in elite QBs that much. You can see it in my exposures. Running backs, Jerome Ford, we saw him. Marshawn Lloyd, we saw him. Chase Brown making the bet on him overtaking Cincinnati's backfield, or at least getting enough work alongside Zach Moss. Bucky Irving is at number 4. A lot of that's early. Don't think I should be a 25% Bucky, but I talked myself back into it because I think he's a performer. I think he and Audric Estime are both performers. I hope they can get there. And Kendre Miller was going heavier on him until Kamara did not get cut. I've dialed back on Kendre. And the law-based stuff, anybody going to New Orleans would fuck it up for Kendre. If nobody goes there, I think I'm happy with this 22% exposure, but we'll see. Don't forget to hit that like button. I agree. Look, I'm giving you my exposure. I'm talking through everything here. So hopefully you guys got some value out of this one. And of course, again, just the likes matter a lot for me as an independent proprietor. So please show some love there. All right. So my my top 5 wide receivers are all rookies because I believe I have an advantage in prognosticating these rookies. So we have Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., still a bit of a chasm here. Neighbors at 30%, Brian Thomas Jr. 23%, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 22%, Odunze at 20%, Brendan Rice at 20%. So I'm a big stand on Brendan Rice. A lot of Leggett, a lot of Troy Franklin as well. So these guys are all tied for 5 here. Odunze, Rice, Leggett, Franklin. These are big stands, guys, and I stand by him. And I still got Nico, still got McLaurin, Christian Watson, Jefferson, still playing the hits. Your top 7 are rookies, the Dan Schneider at best. But no, I'm not being mean to him. I'm not. And again, I don't want to be the Ben Schneider of anything or the Dan Schneider of anything. Brock Bowers, number 1 here, again, 33%. 25% Ben Siddett. I think he goes day 2. I think he's been undervalued. Davis Allen, Colby Parkinson going there does upset things, but Allen was very good last year when Higbee got hurt. So that's a bet that I'm still happy to take at 19th, 20th round. Hunter Henry, he is a good bet, I think, with Drake May likely going there. May or McCarthy would both be good. Frankly, Brissett would be good for Henry. So Henry's got a lot of outs to be better than his ADP. And Michael Mayer here, he is tied with Noah Fant for a number 5 exposure. So as you can see, my exposure, I go heavier on later guys, try to be more balanced with the early positions. But we did get our rookies. We did get our guys. And that, my friends, is going to be a big board. So that is it. That's the end of the big board on stream. Feels kind of sad. Draft number 60 here on stream. So guys, one last ask here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe on that march down to 4K subs. And we're going to be here for BBM no matter what. Some content coming up next week. Not sure what the schedule will be for me, but stay tuned here. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whatever I put out, including my last salvo on rookies will definitely be coming next week and probably a draft if there's something available. Underdog, promo code SPLASH as well. Double your deposit up to $100 on there. Again, we put on these streams every day on Underdog. Please, if you are not signed up on there, use our promo code. It helps out a lot to show them that our show matters in the ecosystem. Frankly, got to earn it with Underdog. I don't get the fucking cool Nike merch shit my way. I don't get the Neon Underdog Light. So help me get the Neon Underdog Light, guys. Please use that promo code SPLASH. Want to change your life in betting? Promo code SPLASH on probably.com/subscribe will do it. Also, check the pinned comments. I leave the 7-day free trial of Probably in the App Store. MLB betting, fucking picked only home runs yesterday. That went terribly for the most part, but still, for Probably keeps you live no matter what kind of betting you're doing, and that's the biggest goal here. Whether it be the NBA play-ins and playoffs, whether it be MLB, whether it be soccer, even the UFL, we have every market available to you using our mathematically profitable process, taking data from the top sportsbooks around the world. So check it out at probably.com/subscribe. Stokastic too, play DFS on there. NASCAR, PGA, all those tools available for you, along with MLB. And you need the Sims tools and MLB to stay alive. So promo code SPLASH saves you 15% on Stokastic. Oh boy. All right. The reading of names. I'm going to take a swig of water for this one. Robert Griffin III, Historical Anomalies, Matthew, Tyler, CLN, Mathology, Rupesh, Willis, Ivan, Rodby, Throbbin, Port, Tony Mark, a.k.a. Tony, a.k.a. Io, a.k.a. 01, Rob Van Natten, Brandon Wagner, Consigliere, Aaron D, Nez, Jake Twitchell, fucking Alpha, Mr. Sammy, a.k.a. Telesco Television, I'm the KY, Kevin Castro, Lateralis, Lunchable Connoisseur, Short Gamer, Carlos, Felix, Chunk the Deuce, Spurry, Snooze, Gabe Davis, Bindles, Frankie Frank, Nolan, Thomas, Laces Out, Mr. TD, Jay Strez, Kent Lewis, Kyler Remillard, Jonathan, M for Life J, Jaden Galen, Christopher, Jeff T, Wounded Geese, Ben Havard, the other Jeff F, Craig B, only one Craig here, Recipes with Reed, get all my recipes from Reed personally, Body Bag Jones, Hoosier Devo, Jason Neff, Michael Thomas, whose month ban ends soon if he keeps paying, Steel City Blue, Thomas Avery, W for Omega, Finkelstein, Shit Kid, okay, Tyler Loesch, Mike Robb, Sip, and D-Will38. You've all helped me put the show on today, and I appreciate you for it. You too can get your name on this list, get also the VIP perks, including me calling out your chats more, including me reviewing your teams, including the Spags rankings coming out after the NFL draft, including some other VIP perks yet to come that we'll figure out as we go. But that's the deal here on Splash Play. And of course, you support the show by hitting that join button. And that's the main thing. Guys, it's been a fun big board. It's been fun doing these drafts. Obviously, ebbs and flows with the draft rooms, the sniping, the over-enthusiasm, but I still appreciate each and every one of you that has tuned in here. And if you've hit that like button, especially if you commented, if you've been a part of the community, good on you. I'm glad to have you here. I feel like we're building something special here every day with the folks that we have in. I'm honestly overjoyed to do these streams every day. So whether it seems like it or not, I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you for being a part of this community, and I'll be back doing something next week. So we'll talk some more NFL draft. I'll see you guys then. Fill in your big board entries if you can. And of course, good luck, guys. Bye.